Chapter 683. Wuxia finally came to his senses after being yelled at. However, the mystic realm that he had been waiting for a year for had been thrown out by Li Zongjiu before it even started. How could Wuxia still have the face to stay there? He immediately cupped his hands at the two elders before turning around and leaving quickly. He had to leave this heartbreaking and despairing place. This Li Zongjiu is quite arrogant. Even Elder Sui Rong couldn't tell what was going on with Li Zongjiu. To be able to do such a thing and throw out two experts on the alchemy master role, his strength couldn't be underestimated. Therefore, Elder Sui Rong was also wondering how far Li Zongjiu could go in the mystic realm. In the mystic realm, when the remaining people saw Kun Erisher throw out the two of them, they didn't dare say anything. They just stared at Li Zongjiu and Kun Erisher. Is there anyone else who wants to spar with me or make a bet with me? Li Zongjiu clapped his hands. He vaguely remembered that when they were outside, Qian Wuji seemed to have made a bet with Li Zongjiu, saying that they wanted to see who could last the longest in this secret realm. In the blink of an eye, he had been thrown out. According to the previous bet, Qian Wuji had to be Li Zongjiu's medicine boy for a year and eat Li Zongjiu's shit for a year. The scene in front of them was indeed unexpected. Fortunately, they hadn't made the bet before. Otherwise, Qian Wuji would be too ashamed to show his face after leaving this place. The remaining people looked at Li Zongjiu and Kun Erisher and subconsciously opened up a path for them. It's not time for the restriction to be activated yet, so there's no way to break through the boundary in front of us. Kun Erisher said as he looked at the scene in front of him. It's not that we can't force our way in. It's just that the difficulty will be 10 times greater than the opening day. Mo Su said. Li Zongjiu's style of doing things was really surprising. However, after getting familiar with it, they felt that Li Zongjiu was truly afraid that it would be too late for revenge. Normally, if there was a grudge between them, they would take revenge on the spot. Is that so? After Li Zongjiu heard this, he also walked up the stairs. At the end of the stairs, there was an invisible wall. When Li Zongjiu reached out his hand, he found that it was blocked by a force. No matter how much strength you used, the invisible wall would return the same amount of strength. There's no need to forcefully try. This level of power is not something that we can break through. Mo Su couldn't help but say. If Li Zongjiu forcefully tried, he might be seriously injured by the power of the boundary. That was why he said that. Li Zongjiu took half a step back when he heard this. Mo Su and the others thought that Li Zongjiu was about to give up. Then, they saw Li Zongjiu raise the fist in his hand and abruptly smash it towards the invisible wall. Boom! A fist smashed out. Suddenly, an invisible vibration rang out, and the terrifying fluctuation immediately spread out in all directions. When the surrounding people felt the vibration, they couldn't help but simultaneously retreat. They even hurriedly covered their ears with their hands, forcibly suppressing the power. Li Zongjiu naturally felt the appearance of this power. The enormous rebound force immediately swept towards Li Zongjiu's body. Whoosh! Li Zongjiu also forcibly suppressed the power in his body. Only then did he not fly out. If that happened, it would be a great loss of face. It was no wonder that Mo Su would say such words. However, his words just now could only be considered as Li Zongjiu not being ready yet. This thing is pretty hard. However, I like to beat hard things into soft things the most. Immediately, Li Zongjiu took another step back. After taking this step, Li Zongjiu's fist directly emitted a golden light. This golden light appeared in an extremely low-key manner. Then, Li Zongjiu suddenly smashed his fist out. The terrifying golden power also accompanied Li Zongjiu's fist as it smashed towards the invisible wall. Boom! At this moment, the incomparably tough energy wall was also broken. Then, Li Zongjiu's body was directly sucked in. He entered the next level. The rest of the people did not have time to rush in. They saw Li Zongjio disappear before their eyes. When they saw this scene, everyone was stunned. That was something that was impossible to happen, yet it had happened right before his eyes time and time again. Such a living example, witnessing such a shocking scene, made their jaws drop. Suddenly, Mo Suli, who was behind him, was also extremely shocked. He saw Li Zongjio directly enter the next level. In his heart, he also understood that Li Zongjio's power had far exceeded theirs. Furthermore, this mystic realm seemed to be a place for people to venture into. If one could directly enter the second level, it would be equivalent to staying in the second level for 6 whole days. They would not have to waste time in the first level. Is it that awesome? Let me give it a try. After seeing this scene, Kun Erishur calculated in his heart. He naturally understood that as long as the power reached a certain level, he would be able to bring himself in. It could be considered as breaking through the next level and reaching the next level in advance. If there were any treasures in the next level, it might be taken away by others in advance. When he thought of this, Kun Erishur naturally began to try without stopping. However, when Kun Erishur threw out his first punch, he did not feel the power of the barrier. He was immediately sent flying by the power of the barrier. Bang! Kun Arashi's entire body was sent flying for nearly 20 meters. He was almost blasted out of the first area's barrier. Damn, it's so fierce. Kun Erishur ate a mouthful of mud. When he got up again, there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. However, Kun Erishur did not give up. Kun Wing Spear. The long spear in his hand. At the same time, a terrifying flame was released from his body. The fire of the setting sun. The Kun Wing Spear in his hand followed the power of the fire of the setting sun and immediately rushed towards the barrier in front of him. Boom! The terrifying power overlapped and instantly blasted a hole in the barrier in front of him. At the same time, Kun Erishur was also sucked in by the spear. Whoosh! Many people heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Lan Kun and Li Zongjio, these two perverts, disappear before their eyes. At the very least, they wouldn't have to worry about being thrown out by others if they were still here. However, at the same time, they were also surprised. With the strength of the two, they were able to force their way through the barrier. This meant that their strength was very terrifying. At the same time, it also let them know that the game of this secret realm was not meant for them to wait here. Instead, it was meant for them to continuously rush through. After finding the correct way to open the barrier, the disciples of Heavenly Day Medicine Manor also began to move. Boom! Boom! Many people used too much strength and did not have enough strength, so they were directly sent flying. Those who fell in the secret realm were considered lucky. A few who were unlucky were directly sent flying out of the secret realm. Just like that, this trip to the secret realm ended hastily. When they got up, they did not even know what was going on. Elder Sui Rong and the others thought that Li Zongjio had thrown them out again. That was too arrogant. The people at the back had already learned their lesson. Everyone helped each other and made sure that they didn't fly out. Some also worked together to attack. In the process of repeated attempts, some people successfully broke through. Just like Li Zongjio and the others, they entered the second zone. Immediately, the remaining people became excited as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They did not stop attacking. They wanted to force their way through. Li Zongjio's fist was shining with golden light. At this moment, the Golden Dragon original spirit also exploded with unprecedented power. It carried Li Zongjio all the way out. Li Zongjio didn't bother to calculate which level he had arrived at. However, along the way, it seemed as though every level of the area was also a scene of this sect. This is a dojo. Chapter 684. The surrounding area was filled with ferocious-looking statues. In the middle was a wide platform. It was the martial arts practice platform. Usually, if there were any fellow disciples who wanted to spar with each other, they would spar here and communicate with each other. Hence, there were many marks left on the floor. Li Zongjie walked through the few areas in front of him. He did not feel any strange changes in the surroundings, even though the density of the Yuan power had increased. However, for the great sects of the ancient times, the Yuan power was the most ordinary existence. Now, the secret realm of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor was no longer mysterious. It was the entrance to the remains of an ancient sect. It was hard to say whether the entire ancient sect had been fully explored by others. Based on Li Zongjie's current situation, the secret realm was meant for these disciples to explore this ancient sect. Li Zongjie had seen many remains of ancient sects in his previous life. The most recent one was the Compassionate Travel sect. It was quite famous in the ancient times, but it gradually declined after surviving until now, which made people sigh. Although the current Compassionate Travel sect's strength was not good, to a certain extent, its potential was very terrifying. If there was an opportunity in the future, the Compassionate Travel sect would definitely be able to grow to a terrifying extent. A sect like this should not be underestimated. It was just waiting for the time when it would explode in the future. Because this area was different, the auras left behind were also different. In the beginning, one could only feel a little bit of aura at most. However, it was different in this training ground. The aura around them was fierce and fierce. If one thought that a martial arts maniac was here, they would definitely go crazy. However, for Li Zongjie, these auras were nothing to him. He was not interested at all. So what if it was an ancient sect? In his previous life, Li Zongjie was a supreme being expert. If he was in this ancient sect, he would be more than qualified to be a sect master. The combat experience of these disciples was completely useless to Li Zongjie. The main hall should be up ahead. Li Zongjie looked at the magnificent building in front of him. There were bronze beasts guarding the entrance on both sides, eyeing it covetously. He didn't come here to find some martial arts experience, but to find the pilgrimage path. If he didn't have the pilgrimage path, even if he walked in, it would be useless. This should be where Do Ling was talking about the statues. Clearly, Do Ling had also come to this place in one go. Then, if you feel bored here, why don't you move on? In fact, just the amount of energy consumed to reach this place was already extremely terrifying. Back then, Do Ling was able to force her way to this place. It was likely that she had exhausted all her strength. If she wanted to continue, she would need to use even more strength. In front of the main entrance of the main hall, Li Zongjie stood there quietly. He stretched out his hand to touch the wooden door in front of him and immediately felt a strong sense of rejection. At the same time, there was also a hint of warning. It seemed to be warning Li Zongjie that if he didn't belong to the sect, if he rashly entered, he would definitely be killed. After several attempts, Li Zongjie also clearly felt that the strength of the boundary here was much stronger than other places. Do you think this can stop me? Li Zongjie smiled disdainfully. He, Li Zongjie, had walked through countless difficult roads since the beginning. What kind of obstacles could he not overcome? Just as well, let me try the hell skill that I just opened. 10 directions hell, blood soul hell. Li Zongjie's whole body was covered in a layer of red light. His eyes also turned crimson red. Now that there was no one around, Li Zongjie no longer hid his strength. He released the dragon soul power, and in this space, an extremely terrifying aura reverberated. The majesty of the dragon clan descended. Although Li Zongjie's current strength was enough to protect himself and even stand in an invincible position in front of an epic emperor powerhouse, it wasn't impossible for him to kill an epic emperor powerhouse if he went all out. However, if people knew that Li Zongjie had the dragon clan original spirit in his body, it would cause unnecessary trouble. It would definitely cause unnecessary trouble. At that time, it might even alarm a sovereign expert. Unless Li Zongjie could be reborn again, he would definitely die in front of a sovereign expert. However, Li Zhongjiu did not have to worry too much about this. Because even a sovereign expert would not be so idle. Furthermore, it was already very difficult to find anything that could move such an expert. Unless one was extremely unlucky, such as Li Zhongjiu accidentally bumping into a supreme being who was currently roaming the world. If that happened, everything would be over. Every supreme being wanted to search for a path of pilgrimage. Even if they had just broken through to the supreme being realm, they would still want to break through one day. However, this was obviously not a simple matter. Therefore, when the slightest possibility appeared in this world, it would attract the attention of a sovereign expert. Don't be fooled by the fact that these guys were usually aloof. However, if something related to them or even something they cared about appeared, they would definitely become 100 times more terrifying and vicious than the wolves in the world. It was better to be careful. When the terrifying aura spread out, the space around Li Zhongjiu was also constantly changing. It seemed like there was a black blood aura that was constantly lingering. After lingering once, the surrounding space completely changed. A bronze door appeared in front of Li Zhongjiu. It was the entrance to another boundary. Golden Dragon Original Spirit. White Dragon Original Spirit. The two original spirits were once again attached to his body. In the preparation of this punch, not only did it contain the powerful physical strength, but it also contained Li Zhongjiu's extremely terrifying mental strength. Boom! Li Zhongjiu punched out. First of all, within his blood soul hell, it was already covered with a layer of extremely powerful force. Then, it directly rushed out. It seemed like there were two dragon souls, entwined with each other, and madly rushed out. It fiercely hit the bronze door in front of him. All of a sudden, the rebounding force was reflected back at the same time, covering Li Zhongjiu's body. Li Zhongjiu had long been prepared. The blood soul hell covered his whole body, guiding this force into the blood soul hell. Immediately, he was in the middle of hell, surrounded by the dark and cold force. However, Li Zhongjiu also clearly felt the collision between the two forces. It seemed like it wanted to destroy Li Zhongjiu. Fortunately, the blood soul hell was still strong. He managed to block the terrifying energy. Buzz! Li Zhongjiu felt his body become light, and then he was sucked in. Chapter 685. Li Zhongjiu entered the room with a sudden realization. Suddenly, a terrifying aura came from all directions and landed on Li Zhongjiu's body. Boom! It was as if there were boulders pressing down on Li Zhongjiu's body from all directions. It was clear that there was such a strange pressure in this place. It wanted to make Li Zhongjiu kneel in the hall. The sudden force did not make Li Zhongjiu panic. The golden dragon soul appeared behind Li Zhongjiu as it unleashed a domineering aura to help Li Zhongjiu withstand the pressure from the surroundings. It was only now that Li Zhongjiu felt the pressure lessen. Oh! That is. Li Zhongjiu's eyes lit up when he saw an item displayed on the table in front of him. Could this be the desolate heaven essence? What appeared in front of Li Zhongjiu was a weapon similar to the Kong Long Jian. However, this desolate heaven essence was completely white and there was an extremely tyrannical wild aura on it. It looked like there was a white wild aura circulating around it. This situation also caused Li Zhongjiu to be shocked. The weapon in front of him seemed familiar. In the future, it had also been obtained by an arrogant young man. Even though that young man was only at the Yuan monarch level, he had been able to whip Yuan monarchs wantonly with the desolate heaven essence in his hand. That was very powerful. It also made people drool over this weapon. Later on, a group of experts came out from the depths of the vast wilderness and took away the desolate heaven essence, saying that it was a sacred item left behind by their ancestors and belonged to them. And that young man's whereabouts were unknown since then. When that young man appeared, Li Zhongjiu had only seen the desolate heaven essence in some scrolls. At that time, Li Zongjiu had just stepped into the Yuan Emperor level and did not care about these things. If this thing was so easy to obtain, it would not have been his turn at that time. Li Zongjiu knew his own limits. Now, he could actually see the desolate heaven essence with his own eyes. It also surprised Li Zongjiu. It was said that the desolate heaven essence was refined from the ridge of a sacred mountain in the depths of the vast wilderness. And in the vast wilderness, it was refined using the wild aura for countless days before finally refining the desolate heaven essence. When it was casually used, it had the power to pierce through 10,000 mountains. I never expected the desolate heaven essence to be in the heavenly star medicine manner. If this is the case, then this sect remains should be related to the great desolate lands. Li Zongjiu thought to himself, but at the same time, he admired the Shengyan dynasty's methods. They had built an institute on top of the ruins. Such a method made it impossible for outsiders to say anything. Whether it was the Genius Pavilion or the Secret Realm, they were all products of this ancient sect. However, it was very natural for the Heavenly Star Medicine manner to use them. Even if it was traced back to the past, it was still unclear how it came to be. Furthermore, at the time when the Shengyan dynasty was at its strongest, who would dare to take the initiative to find trouble? Even if they knew, they could only pretend not to know, and at the same time, applaud the Shengyan dynasty. Speaking of the desolate heaven essence, it was definitely an extremely sharp weapon in the early stages. Li Zongjiu was tempted. In his previous life, the Yuan monarch was able to defeat an primitive emperor with the desolate heaven essence. If it was in his hands now, he would definitely be able to unleash an even more terrifying power. In addition, the desolate heaven essence itself was a weapon that contained the wild aura, so it might have many other unexpected uses. After obtaining this weapon, the powerhouses of the vast wilderness would come out to cause trouble. It wouldn't be easy for them to take it away from Li Zongjiu's hands. No matter what, he had to take it first. It wasn't easy to obtain the desolate heaven essence. The pressure he felt just now was released by the desolate heaven essence. It was also because there was a desolate heaven essence in the room that outsiders couldn't open it. Without sufficient strength, it would be difficult to succeed. Li Zongjiu's punch just now was equivalent to exceeding the realm of an primitive emperor. Therefore, the power of that punch was something that few people could achieve, even in the heavenly star medicine manner. Li Zongjiu took a step closer to the desolate heaven essence and immediately felt the pressure on his body rise. Boom! The ground beneath his feet was fine, but Li Zongjiu could already feel that his body was enduring a rather terrifying force. Interesting. Li Zongjiu's lips curled up. This kind of extremely challenging thing was his favorite. Many times, he had climbed up from the abyss of death. This was enough to prove Li Zongjiu's strength and his incomparably tenacious willpower. White Dragon Origin Spirit. Rise! Behind him, another ray of white light appeared. The two dragon souls appeared, and the pressure on his body suddenly weakened. When the power of the two dragon souls filled the entire room, it felt like it was about to collapse. In terms of pressure, they were already equal. However, Li Zongjiu liked to use a domineering stance. Blood Dragon Soul. Boom! When the power of the Blood Dragon Soul spread out, it was as if the world was falling apart. The desolate heaven essence's aura finally retracted. It had been sleeping here for many years and had never met an opponent. Even if someone came here, they would be easily intimidated by it. Where did such a powerful aura come from? It was naturally shocked and it suddenly appeared in front of it. You're scared? I haven't even used my fourth origin spirit yet. Just the appearance of the three dragon souls was enough to make the desolate heaven essence in front of them look down on the world. Following that, it stunned the desolate heaven essence before them. Li Zongjiu easily took 2 steps forward and grabbed the desolate heaven essence in his hand. At first, the desolate heaven essence put up some resistance, but in the next second, it admitted defeat and was easily picked up by Li Zongjiu. Boom! A mountain collapsing aura spread out in all directions. The desolate heaven essence had been sleeping here for many years. Now that it was finally picked up by someone, even the desolate heaven essence itself felt as if it had seen the light of day again. Not bad. Li Zhongjiu weighed it in his hand. When he casually waved it, it felt as if the space around it would explode. Wouldn't this move be able to obliterate even a Yuan monarch expert? This weapon is enough for me to refine. Chapter 686. Refining a weapon did not mean that the weapon would be directly melted. Instead, it was a method unique to Yuan masters. They used their own Yuan power to completely refine the weapon until it could be kept within their body. However, this was a process that required a long period of communication and nurturing. Keeping it within one's body would make it an extremely convenient weapon for oneself. It could also be considered a magical use of Yuan power. After such refinement, one would definitely be able to connect with the weapon through one's heart. Just like Li Zhongjiu's vast flying dagger. Being able to connect with each other's hearts would allow one to display even greater power under such circumstances. Li Zhongjiu did not choose to continue. It was already very difficult for him to reach this point with his current strength. If he continued, he might lose more than he gained. Greed was human nature, but there were not many people who could restrain their greed within the limits of one's own strength. If one could not control their desires, it would be very difficult for them to achieve anything. Li Zhongjiu began refining the desolate heaven essence in this room. As for the people outside, after the exciting journey at the beginning, each of them had displayed their strength. At the same time, the gap between them had widened. Some people were able to enter the next level with all their might, but there were others who were unable to successfully break through even if they used all their strength. This was rather surprising. As for Li Zhongjiu, he stayed in the room and refined the desolate heaven essence in peace. When Li Zhongjiu used his mental strength to enter the desolate heaven essence, he was immediately shocked by the terrifying aura that was emitted from the desolate heaven essence. This weapon must have been a weapon that deterred the heavens and earth in ancient times. Li Zhongjiu was no longer able to sense the age of the desolate heaven essence. However, the aura left behind on it was extremely ancient. After a series of battles, it had now appeared in Li Zhongjiu's hands. Such an ancient divine weapon would definitely not be a disgrace in the hands of Li Zhongjiu. During the refining process, Li Zhongjiu could clearly feel his blood-soul hell growing slightly as he refined it. It's the killing aura on the desolate heaven essence. Li Zhongjiu opened his eyes. In order to increase the strength of the blood-soul hell, he had to absorb enough killing aura. For example, the killing aura left behind on the desolate heaven essence allowed the blood-soul hell to expand by nearly a tenth. Now, everything within 100 feet of Li Zhongjiu was hell. It looks like I won't be able to stop in this life. Li Zhongjiu could not help but say. Killing people was like eating a meal in front of Li Zhongjiu. There was nothing wrong with it, nor was there any resistance. This was because, to be honest, there were too many people in this world who deserved to die. Some people said that it was not up to you to judge whether others deserved to die or not. That was where they were wrong. In Li Zhongjiu's place, it did not matter if I disliked you and criticized you. As long as I was stronger than you, you would die if I wanted you dead. Desolate heaven essence. Li Zhongjiu opened his palm and the desolate heaven essence immediately appeared in his hand. A dense aura lingered around it. Finally, there was a passable weapon. As for the Thunder Slayer saber and Thunder Xian hammer, they were only convenient in the hands of Li Zhongjiu when he was slashing people. He did not intend to use them for anything else. It was extremely difficult to injure an primitive emperor with such a weapon. Even if Li Zhongjiu were to use them personally, the effect might not be good. With the Yuan Qi body of an primitive emperor, it was enough to block these forces outside their body easily. Unless it was some special Yuan weapon, it would not be able to injure them. This was also the reason why Li Zhongjiu had always avoided a direct confrontation with an primitive emperor. Even if an primitive emperor stood still and let a Yuan monarch expert slash at him with a saber in his hand, he would not be able to do much. However, an primitive emperor only needed to slightly vibrate his aura and he would be shattered along with his saber. Only by wielding such a divine weapon would one be able to fight head-on with an primitive emperor. As long as he took advantage of the moment when the latter was unprepared, he could escape and smash the primitive emperor powerhouse with his rod, turning him into a retard. Oh. You're here already? Li Zongjiu felt the fluctuations in the surroundings. Then, a gentle force sent Li Zongjiu out. Before Li Zongjiu came, the longest time he had stayed in the secret realm was 21 days. However, Li Zongjiu had stayed in there for a whole month. Just like that, 30 days passed by in a flash. When Li Zongjiu opened his eyes again, he found himself in front of the stone door that he had first entered. Other than the two elders, there was only Lan Kuan at the side. He held a green foxtail in his mouth and squatted at the side, waiting. Kuan Erisher had stayed in there for a total of 18 days, which was considered a long time this time. However, he had only lingered outside the mountain gate and did not get too close. If he wanted to enter the sect, he would have to be at least at the peak of the Yuan monarch realm. Therefore, Kuan Erisher did not have much strength left. Previously, everyone had been sent out according to the order of their strength. However, Kuan Erisher did not see Li Zongjiu. Those who did not know would have thought that Li Zongjiu had died in there. However, Kuan Erisher knew that Li Zongjiu was so strong that he would not die so easily. Therefore, he waited at the side. Unexpectedly, this wait lasted for almost half a month. All the students in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor were on vacation. Therefore, Kuan Erisher was worried about what Li Zongjiu was doing. "Boss, you're finally out." When he saw Li Zongjiu appear, Kuan Erisher hurriedly got up and threw the green foxtail in his mouth to the side. When he looked at Li Zongjiu, the aura on his body seemed to have improved once again. It was obvious that he had become stronger. When Elder Bai Ku and Elder Sui Rong saw that Li Zongjiu had actually stayed in there for a total of 30 days, they felt deep disbelief. "Kid, what did you encounter in there?" Elder Bai Ku immediately shouted in a deep voice. At the same time, his figure flashed and appeared not far away from Li Zongjiu. Elder Bai Ku wanted to get closer to Li Zongjiu. However, he felt an inexplicable sense of danger when he approached Li Zongjiu. It was as if the unseen world was warning him that something bad would happen if he exceeded this distance. Chapter 687. If you want to know, why don't you go in and take a look yourself? Li Zongjiu glanced at Elder Baiku. As an elder, Elder Baiku did not have the slightest bit of magnanimity. Now that Elder Baiku wanted to make things difficult for Li Zongjiu, how could he be courteous? "Kid, do you think that you can match up to a true elite just because you have some tricks up your sleeves?" Elder Baiku's eyes narrowed. His originally small eyeballs were like cracks at this moment. A sinister gaze leaked out from within the cracks. He stared intently at Li Zongjiu, who was standing before him. When Lan Kuan saw this, he also knew that the situation was not good. From the looks of the two of them, it was obvious that they were about to fight. Kuan Erisher might not be able to say much about other people, but this was a guardian elder that even Vice Dean Qi Dan respected. Generally speaking, the strength of a guardian elder was on the stronger side. Perhaps they could even kill Li Zongjiu in an instant. "You're old. Let's just sit down and talk. I'm afraid that your back will hurt if you stand up and talk for too long," Li Zongjiu said nonchalantly. The sinister smile on Elder Baiku's face became even more vibrant. Upon seeing Li Zongjiu, he smiled menacingly. "Very well. Previously, you made a move in the mystic area and broke the sect's rules. Today, I will fulfill my duty as an elder and teach you how to be a proper disciple." Elder Baiku suddenly extended a palm towards Li Zongjiu. His palm was extremely skinny, as if a piece of withered tree bark was wrapped around his finger. It looked extremely terrifying. As the palm extended towards Li Zongjiu, Kun Erisher, who was not the target, also felt a powerful aura and could not help but retreat continuously. This person's strength had actually reached the half-step Yuan sovereign realm. Although he had yet to reach the Yuan sovereign realm, his aura was not something that a peak Yuan monarch could compare to. Kun Erisher had seen this peak Yuan king expert in action before. Now that he was facing Elder Baiku, he felt an unprecedented pressure. No matter how outstanding Kun Arashi's talent was, he had yet to break through to the Yuan monarch realm. The gap between them was too great, forcing Kun Erisher to retreat. Good timing. You can also try out my weapon. Li Zongjiu saw Elder Baiku rushing over. It had to be said that Baiku's strength was not bad. At the very least, it would not be a problem for him to protect the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. It was no wonder that Vice Principal Qi Dan would be so respectful to these people. In any case, they could be considered as half of the school's guardian gods. To be able to invite these great gods to oversee the school, it seemed that the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor's Manor Lord was not a simple person. Furthermore, the Manor Lord was not even in the manor. Something appeared in Li Zongjiu's hand. He directly smashed the stick towards Elder Baiku's outstretched palm. Elder Baiku already had a bad premonition when Li Zongjiu took out this weapon. When the stick came smashing towards him, Elder Baiku raised his hand confidently to block it. Now that he had his own Yuan Qi, it was impossible for ordinary weapons to hurt him. Boom! Elder Baiku's arm was bleeding from Li Zongjiu's stick. Bang! Elder Baiku's arm was swollen. Immediately, Elder Baiku clenched his hand and grimaced in pain. You can actually break through my defense. Elder Baiku was shocked. He couldn't believe it. Although Elder Baiku was only a half-step Yuan sovereign realm expert, this was only half a step forward. Elder Baiku's strength had already far surpassed that of Lei Gong, the owner of the Bright Lightning Craftsman Workshop. However, when Elder Baiku faced Li Zongjiu, his defense was easily broken through by Li Zongjiu. As an Yuan sovereign realm expert's defense, Elder Baiku could not believe it. This was because he believed that Li Zongjiu would not be able to break through his defense. However, Li Zongjiu had completely disappointed Elder Baiku. Not only could he break through his defense, but he could also beat the shit out of him. Immediately, the desolate heaven essence in his hand smashed towards Elder Baiku's leg. Boom! This whip had awakened Elder Baiku from his stupor. The weapon in Li Zongjiu's hand was not only able to break through his defense, it could also easily cripple him. Smack! Another crisp sound was heard as Li Zongjiu knocked Elder Baiku to the ground. Ah! Elder Baiku roared loudly. At the same time, he unleashed all the Yuan power in his body and retreated backwards. He had never imagined that he would suffer such a great loss at the hands of Li Zongjiu. Elder Baiku gritted his teeth as he stared at Li Zongjiu. Brat, what weapon is that in your hand? Elder Baiku was in pain, but he did not believe that this was Li Zongjiu's strength. There must be something strange about it. The only strange thing in Li Zongjiu's hand was the desolate heaven essence. What weapon? Haven't you had enough? Do you want a few more? Li Zongjiu gently waved the desolate heaven essence in his hand. Immediately, several phantoms appeared. The terrifying vibrations immediately made Elder Baiku nervous. As if he saw the fear in Elder Baiku's eyes, Li Zongjiu said with disdain. Wait till you break through to the primitive emperor realm before you come and take revenge on me. Gatekeeper, just guard the door properly. Don't look down on people with your dog eyes. After saying that, Li Zongjiu elegantly turned around and left. With just a few words, Elder Baiku was left speechless. Since when did this brat become so arrogant? He actually dared to point his spear at Elder Baiku and even taught him a lesson. It was unbelievable. Elder Sui Rong, who was standing by the side, fell into deep thought when he saw this scene. Although Elder Bai Ku was beaten up, at least his life was saved. Furthermore, no one saw it. As long as he didn't say anything, no one would know that he was beaten up. The Yuan artifact in that brat's hand isn't simple, Sui Rong said. Elder Bai Ku was naturally furious when he heard that. Of course it's not simple. How can it be simple to break through my Yuan Emperor body? Elder Bai Ku said angrily. It was clearly not a joke. Could it be that this brat had a very powerful background? He actually had such a powerful weapon. Just the thought of it was terrifying. At the same time, Elder Bai Ku was thinking that if this weapon landed in his hands, it might be even more effective. You don't have to think about it. In my opinion, if that brat wanted to kill you, you wouldn't have any hope of surviving. Sui Rong shook his head. Naturally, he could see through Elder Bai Ku's thoughts. Although he was already here and seemed to be undergoing such a cultivation, it wasn't very effective. Once he saw such a good item, he couldn't help but feel an itch in his heart. After hearing Sui Rong's words, Elder Bai Ku understood that with the desolate heaven essence in his hands, Li Zongjiu could really kill him easily. However, he naturally couldn't let go of his mouth so easily. TSK, come if you have the ability. Chapter 688. Boss, where did you get that weapon from? It's too fierce. Kun Erisher could naturally tell that Li Zongjiu's weapon was extraordinary. The 2 or 3 moves he had just displayed were extremely terrifying. A half-step primitive emperor expert. Kun Erisher could not even think of resisting such an expert. He could only think of resisting this aura. He thought that Li Zongjiu would suffer a little, but who would have thought that Li Zongjiu would casually take out such a big stick, and easily beat this person to the point where he fled in panic. That was also because he reckoned that the other party had run fast. If he had run a little slower, he might have died under Li Zongjiu's cudgel. Lon Kun was even more astonished to see a weapon that could beat an primitive emperor powerhouse. As a citizen of Kun City, he had also undergone systematic learning. At the very least, Kun City had once produced a primitive emperor expert. Hence, he was aware of some of the knowledge regarding primitive emperors. He wasn't completely clueless about them. It was difficult for ordinary weapons to injure primitive emperors. When one's cultivation level broke through to the primitive emperor realm, one's body would form a kind of primitive emperor energy. This was because the energy in one's body was too strong, and it could no longer be contained. Therefore, when it was released outside the body, it would naturally form a wall of air around the body. It was not difficult to see the difference in strength between primitive emperors based on this wall of air. The stronger the primitive emperor expert's cultivation level, the stronger the aura would be. When one reached the sovereign realm, it would form the power of one's own domain. Some people were talented and intelligent and had already comprehended this level in the primitive emperor realm. However, they could only imitate 30% of it. It was obvious that Elder Bai Ku had already condensed his own aura. It was basically impossible to shatter it. However, Li Zongjiu had done it easily and had even almost broken Elder Bai Ku's leg. This is nothing. When you break through to the primitive emperor realm, I will give you something even more impressive. Li Zongjiu said calmly. However, this sentence was slightly boastful. Although Li Zongjiu was a multifaceted genius, he was still a genius. However, in terms of refining weapons, he might not have such ability. After all, Li Zongjiu was an expert in alchemy. Furthermore, the desolate heaven essence itself was extremely powerful. Forging a weapon that surpassed the desolate heaven essence was not an easy task. Really? Then I'll remember it, hee. Kun Erisher immediately laughed. I asked you to go to Shui Yu's house to take a look. Did you go? Li Zongjiu asked. Perhaps it was because in her previous life, she ended up being alone for the rest of her life. Therefore, in this life, she had become a little wishy-washy. She also had a kind of eager attitude towards the couples around her. He even paid a lot of attention to it. Obviously, this was a typical attitude of an old person. Her own matters were not settled yet, but she was always worrying about other people's matters. That's right. I have not been to Shui Yu's house. Basically, I have been contacting her through letters. Previously, I have been writing in, but recently, there have been no replies. I was preparing to go and see what happened after you came out. Koen Erasher said as he thought about it. Then what are you waiting for? As Li Zongjio spoke, the two of them walked out of the entrance of the Heavenly Stellar Medicine Mansion. It was now the holiday season and the students did not need to continue their studies in the Heavenly Stellar Medicine Mansion. Instead, they had sufficient time to return home and visit relatives. Alternatively, they could work as a temporary alchemist in a pill workshop in the Holy Flame Royal City and help others refine some pills to earn some extra money. At the same time, it was also to build up their reputation. Some of them chose to travel around during this period. It was also a very lively and carefree thing to do. However, the entrance of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor was a little deserted. When the two of them reached the entrance, someone was pacing back and forth. Then, he realized that there were people pacing back and forth in front of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. It was obvious that they were extremely anxious. Miss Wan Er. Seeing the person, Koen Erasher was a little surprised. This Miss Wan Er was Shui Yu's servant girl. Koen Erasher was not stupid. He roughly knew that Shui Yu's status was either rich or noble. It was normal for her to have a servant girl by her side. Young Master Lan, come with me quickly. Something bad has happened. When Wan Er saw Koen Erasher, it was as if she had seen her savior. She hurriedly went up to Koen Erasher and pulled him away. Koen Erasher naturally pulled Li Zongjio along. As they ran, he introduced them to Li Zongjio. Boss, this is Wan Er, Shui Yu's servant girl. Wan Er, this is my boss, Li Zongjio. Wan waved her hand when she heard that. What time is it? Why are you still calling me boss and second boss? He directly pushed the two of them into the carriage. Then, Wan Er also squeezed in. Let's go to the Mirror Moon Villa. With a roar, the carriage quickly rose into the air. It was only now that Wan Er finally stopped. She had only run for a short distance, but she was already panting. What exactly happened? Why are you so flustered? Li Zongjio frowned and asked. Just now, this girl called Wan Er dared to be disrespectful to him. However, this was not a big problem, so he simply let her go. It seemed that the situation was a little dangerous. It's Mississippi Miss's mother is recuperating in the Mirror Moon Villa. Originally, under the care of Master Mirror Moon, everything seemed to be stable. However, in the past few days, her illness suddenly flared up. Master Mirror Moon once said that only the elixirs of some sect could alleviate her illness. Now, this sect's young master actually brought the elixirs and came to propose marriage. Wan said nervously. But in any case, she still clearly explained the cause and effect of this matter. Li Zongjio and Koen Erasher also heard it clearly. The general meaning was that Shui Yue was going to get married? How could this be? Who is so arrogant to dare to steal my woman? Koen Erasher was unable to restrain his anger. He could not wait to grab that person in front of him and give him a good beating. I remember now. It's the Mystic Yuan sect. It's the young master of the Mystic Yuan sect. I heard that the Mystic Yuan sect is very powerful. The Mystic Yuan sect. When Koen Erasher heard this name, he was slightly shocked. Li Zongjio also looked at Koen Arashi's expression. The Mystic Yuan sect's strength was a well-known first-rate sect in the Shengyan dynasty. It was different from the Spirit Valley sect and the Valley Immortal sect. The Mystic Yuan sect specialized in cultivating elemental force cultivation experts. It was similar to the Foggy Snow Pill sect near the Wuxia city that Li Zongjio came from. However, the Foggy Snow Pills sect was only equivalent to a third-rate sect. But the Mystic Yuan sect was equivalent to a first-rate sect. Usually, a first-rate sect's sphere of influence could affect the area of several first-rate cities. Such strength could be seen at a glance. So what if it's the Mystic Yuan sect? I came from Kuan Castle. What kind of scene have I not seen? Just bring me there. Kuan Erasure was ready to risk everything. After all, the people in Kuan Castle had always been straightforward. The strength of Kuan Castle was definitely similar to the Mystic Yuan sect. But now, if they wanted to compare with the Mystic Yuan sect, the Mystic Yuan sect would probably not even bother with them. Well said. Miss Wan, show us the way. It's too slow. Li Zhongjiu said and then grabbed the two of them. Boom! They rushed out of the carriage and flew towards the sky. With Kuan Arashi's strength, it wasn't difficult for him to fly alone. However, after a short while, he had to rest for a while, or he had to use his Yuan spirit state. However, Li Zhongjiu directly brought the two of them up into the sky, and it seemed so easy for him to do so. At first, Wan was shocked. However, her willpower wasn't something that ordinary people could compare with. After calming down, she determined the direction and pointed towards the Mirror Moon Villa. Over there. Boom! Under the state of using the hidden dragon art, there wasn't even the slightest bit of aura. In just a few breaths, Li Zhongjiu and the other two landed in front of the Mirror Moon Villa. Chapter 689. The Mirror Moon Mountain Villa was a place where an expert lived in seclusion. No one knew his name, but he called himself Master Mirror Moon. However, this person had an extremely illustrious title in Jianghu. Master Mirror Emperor. Rumor had it that this person was proficient in mental power. No matter how one tried to hide, they wouldn't be able to hide from Master Mirror Emperor. In addition to his illustrious reputation in Jianghu, Master Mirror Emperor was also the teacher of many princes in the Imperial Palace. His name was also given to him by the Imperial College. However, there weren't many people who could catch Master Mirror Emperor's eye and be personally taught by him. In addition to being famous for his mental power, Master Mirror Emperor was also proficient in recuperation. Shueiyue could be considered a disciple that Master Mirror Emperor had taken a fancy to. Originally, she was only following her mother to recuperate in the Mirror Moon Mountain Villa. However, Master Mirror Emperor had taken a fancy to her and wanted to take her as a disciple. Shueiyue actually ignored him and ran down the mountain alone. She ran into the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor and became a disciple of the manor. When Master Mirror Emperor heard this, he wanted nothing more than to slap the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor to pieces. However, this disciple couldn't run away. Who knew how many famous and noble families wanted to become Master Mirror Emperor's disciple? Up until now, no one had taken a fancy to her. It was rare for him to take a fancy to Shueiyue. Recently, Shueiyue's mother's health hadn't been very good. Even Master Mirror Emperor found it difficult to suppress her. Now, she was about to reach the end of her road. At this moment, the Mystic Origin sect came to propose marriage with medicinal pills. These people clearly had impure motives, but so what? At this moment, in the main hall of the Mirror Moon Mountain Villa, a group of green-robed cultivators sat on the left and right sides. On the right side of the main seat, there was a well-dressed man with a tall and straight figure. As he listened to their conversation, the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. However, the corner of his eyes was constantly sizing up a young girl standing behind the person sitting on the high seat. There were two people sitting on the high seat. One of them looked very old with a head full of white hair. However, she had a dignified bearing and held a gemstone crutch in her hand. This old woman was the owner of the Mirror Moon Mountain Villa, Master Mirror Moon. People called him the Mirror Emperor. Sitting beside Master Mirror Moon was also an old man. However, this old man's hair was black and his face was red. His fingers were thin and powerful. What was surprising was that this old man only had one arm. The sleeve of his left hand was also empty. With the current technology, it wouldn't be a problem to install a prosthetic arm, not to mention the fact that he was able to sit together with the Mirror Emperor. Naturally, it wasn't difficult to see that this person was able to sit on the same level as the Mirror Emperor. This person's strength must be extraordinary, but now he actually maintained a one-armed posture. Obviously, he had some eccentricities. This person's status was not low either. He was one of the 7 managing elders of the mystic Yuan sect. The so-called principal elders were naturally some of the elders with real power. Basically, all the big and small matters in the sect had to be handled by these 7 elders. The one-armed elder in front of him was in charge of the external affairs hall in the Shenyuan sect. All external affairs, including the deployment of manpower, travel outside the borders, and so on, were basically the responsibility of this elder. Elder of the Foreign Affairs Hall. One-armed Xiao Yuan. The person standing behind Master Mirror Moon was Shueiyue. At this moment, Shueiyue was expressionless. She gritted her teeth and only clutched the corner of her clothes. Shueiyue really couldn't bear to see her mother's painful appearance these past few days. Now, the young sect master of the Shenyuan sect had finally seized the opportunity to rush over and actually proposed marriage. Wasn't his intention obvious? He clearly wanted to use this elixir to directly take Shueiyue away. At the same time, he could also receive the Mirror Emperor's care. After all, Shueiyue was now the Mirror Emperor's disciple. Elder Xiao Yuan, I, Mirror Moon, am extremely grateful for the Pale Flame True Spirit elixir that you sent over. However, as for Princess Jing'an's marriage, it still needs to be discussed in detail in front of the Emperor. Master Jingyue said. Her words attracted everyone's attention. After talking for half a day, they finally got to the main topic. The handsome man sitting below couldn't help but straighten up. However, when he heard Master Mirror Moon's words, he couldn't help but frown. What was this? Was she trying to take away the elixir and then push the blame to the Emperor Shengyan? Shueiyue's identity was no longer a secret. Shueiyue's true identity was the Shengyan dynasty's Princess Jing'an. A princess of a generation. No wonder she could receive the Mirror Emperor's care. The Shenyuan sect was also very bold. They seemed to be relying on their current strength to directly propose marriage to the princess. If they succeeded, not only would they have a closer relationship with the Shengyan dynasty, but they would also directly form an extremely friendly alliance with the Mirror Emperor. From then on, embarking on the path of meteoric success would be an extremely normal thing. This would allow the Shenyuan sect to directly break through the ranks of the same forces. This was also a very good opportunity. After all, there were only 3 princesses of the Shengyan dynasty. The eldest one was already married. As for the remaining 2, they were also very popular. After learning that Princess Jing'an's mother was terminally ill, the Shenyuan sect immediately prepared a big gift. The Mirror Emperor had previously said that Princess Jing'an's mother's illness was incurable. However, the Grey Flame True Spirit Elixir was a grade 7 elixir. Furthermore, it could only be found in the Shenyuan sect. Currently, no one could refine the Grey Flame True Spirit Elixir. These elixirs had already become the Shenyuan sect's most precious treasures. The fact that the mystic Yuan sect's young sect leader could bring one out to save a dying person and at the same time, exchange it for such an opportunity, it was obvious that the mystic Yuan sect's plan was very thorough. Now, Princess Jing'an was most likely going to get it. Although Princess Jing'an really wanted to take the elixir, these people from the Shenyuan sect would definitely not let her go. Mirror Emperor is Princess Jing'an's master. We came here to arrange the marriage in advance. Moreover, Princess Jing'an's mother is also in the Mirror Moon Villa. After both of them agree, we will go directly to the Emperor. This way, we won't be rash. If Mirror Emperor agrees, this marriage is definitely going to happen. We can also give our sect's sacred item, the grey flame true spirit elixir, to the princess. After all, her mother's health cannot be delayed. Xiao Yuan said intentionally. He deliberately mentioned Princess Jing'an's mother's condition in front of Princess Jing'an to directly provoke her. Moreover, although our young sect master does not dare to say that his talent is unparalleled in the world, even in the Shengyan dynasty, he can more or less be considered an outstanding person. Xiao Yuan said. These words were obviously very modest. Clearly, he was being courteous. Based on the look in the eyes of the mystic Yuan sect's young sect master, it was clear that he did not care about anyone at all. Changhe, you say it yourself. Yes, elder. Gong Changhe stood up and cupped his hands at the Mirror Emperor and Xiao Yuan. Then, he gradually released the aura from his body. Grade 5 Yuan Monarch. As his aura was released, the corners of Gong Changhe's mouth curled up slightly. Changhe is untalented. After painstakingly cultivating for 22 years, I am only a grade 5 Yuan Monarch. However, Changhe believes that there are few people in the same generation in the Sacred Flame Royal City who can match me. Chapter 690. Gong Changhe's words were obviously meant to provoke all the young talents in Monarch City. However, he was just that strong. It would be very difficult to find a few experts like Gong Changhe. Where did you come from? Do you want to find an opponent so badly? Just as everyone was surprised by Gong Changhe's strength, an extremely disdainful voice came from behind. It happened to come from the entrance. Kuan Erisher took the lead and jumped in through the door. The words just now were said by Kuan Erisher. The style of his words was very similar to Li Zongjiu's style. Shueiyue also raised her head and looked outside the door. She immediately saw Kuan Erisher and her mouth opened wide in shock. Why was Kuan Erisher here? If Lan Kuan was involved in this matter, it would be a very troublesome matter. Therefore, Shueiyue was extremely worried in her heart. However, this scene was exactly what Shueiyue was looking forward to. Kuan Erisher was finally here. Everyone turned their heads. Who was it that dared to cause trouble in the Mystic Yuan sect? Everyone present was basically a disciple of the Mystic Yuan sect. This time, besides coming down the mountain to support their young sect master, they also wanted to better display the strength of the Mystic Yuan sect under such circumstances. Now that the Mystic Yuan sect's momentum was strong, they naturally wanted to be the first to kill their way out and then gain a greater advantage. Interesting. Mirror Emperor looked at Kuan Erisher and Li Zongjiu. These two mere youths dared to barge into his Mirror Moon Villa. Presumably, the people who flew directly from the city were these two. However, Mirror Emperor didn't say much. The current situation seemed to be a little interesting. Who dares to be impudent in the Mirror Moon Villa? The first to enter were the guards of the Mirror Moon Villa. Two white-clothed sword cultivators walked in and wanted to capture Li Zongjiu and Kuan Erisher. Uncle Bai, they are my friends. Shueiyue hurriedly shouted. The few people who were about to make a move exchanged glances with each other before looking at Master Jingyue. Master Jingyue also waved her hand, indicating for them to leave first. Immediately, the two of them cupped their hands together and left. These two brats had run too quickly just now. They had slipped into this place without anyone noticing. If anything were to happen, it would all be on their heads. Master Mirror Moon didn't say anything. Behind her, Shueiyue also realized that she had been too excited. Gong Changhe, who was in front, saw this scene. In addition, Kuan Erisher was exchanging amorous glances with Shueiyue. At this moment, he felt a great humiliation. When he looked at Lan Kuan again, murderous intent rose in his heart. Although he hadn't succeeded in proposing marriage, Gong Changhe had already regarded Shueiyue as his woman. For Gong Changhe, even if others took a second look at him, it was something he couldn't tolerate. Therefore, Gong Changhe had already sentenced Kuan Erisher to death in his heart. Since you are also one of Princess Jing En's pursuers, that's good. I also want to ask for advice from this brother's strength today. I want to let Princess Jing En see who is her true love. Gong Changhe's lips curled up as he spoke. He could naturally see that Kun Erisher was only a grade 9 Yuan ancestor. His strength. How should he put it? He was indeed more powerful than the average person. However, in Gong Changhe's eyes, in the eyes of the mystic Yuan sect, he was simply a piece of trash. Anyone who couldn't break through to the Yuan monarch realm was considered trash. There is no need for senior brother to make a move. This is a good day, so it's not appropriate for senior brother to use his sword. It just so happens that I have made some breakthroughs recently. I want to see how the experts of Monarch City look like. A relatively short mystic Yuan sect disciple stood up and stood in front of Gong Changhe. It was obvious that this disciple had won Gong Changhe's favor. It wouldn't be inappropriate for Gong Changhe to make a move. However, this also meant that he had a slightly higher opinion of Kun Erisher. If his junior brother were to make a move, it would mean that Kun Erisher was simply unworthy of exchanging blows with senior brother Gong Changhe. Any of his junior brothers would be able to easily crush Lan Kun in front of him. Who do you think you are to be worthy of exchanging blows with me? Kun Erisher crossed his arms in front of his chest as he spoke arrogantly. Then, he simply ignored everything else and started to reprimand Gong Changhe in front of these people. You people claim to be from a first-rate sect in the underworld. This young lady's mother is seriously ill and is still lying in bed. You people actually used an elixir to threaten her and force her to marry an ugly person like you. Do you have any shame? If news of what happened today were to spread, the entire Sacred Flame Royal City would laugh until their teeth fell out. Reputable sect. First-rate sect. Bah! Kun Erisher spoke with extreme disdain. This time, it was Li Zongjiu's turn to be dumbfounded. He immediately gave this guy a thumbs up. This guy was really good at acting tough. He actually dared to say such words and directly insulted a first-rate sect like the Mystic Yuan sect. He was getting bolder and bolder. From the looks of it, this Kun Erisher was the real badass. Previously, he didn't put the pavilion master of the Chongqing Pavilion in his eyes. Now, he didn't put the entire Mystic Yuan sect in his eyes. No one expected that this dark-skinned youth would say such sharp words the moment he jumped up. No one would dare to not give face to the Mystic Yuan sect. Although everyone was well aware of this matter and knew what was going on, they didn't want to expose it. If they directly exposed the other party's intentions, then how could the other party continue to mingle in the future? How embarrassing would it be if he said it out loud? Even Master Miramoon herself didn't expect this brat to be so outspoken. He was simply too courageous to directly point out this matter. It was rare to see such an outspoken young man nowadays. Most people were as hypocritical as they could be. It was very annoying to look at them. Master Jingyue was also an expert in mental strength, so she only needed to glance at them casually. Even if she could roughly see what kind of person you were, no matter how many disguises you put on, they would all be useless in front of Master Jingyue. Therefore, Master Jingyue had long seen through the tricks of these young people. It was rare to see a youth like Kun Erisher who spoke so directly and didn't show any mercy. On account of this Kun Arashi's unconventional style, Master Jingyue would protect herself. Master Miramoon herself would choose to protect Lan Kun. She didn't die today to give this young man a chance. Shameless boasting. How dare you insult our sect? Today, either you die, or I die. The previous disciple also directly roared. He was ready to cut the Gordian knot and kill this kid first. The rest could be discussed slowly. After all, no one would care about the words of a dead person. Chapter 691. Immediately, the disciple thrust his sword towards Kun Erisher. The terrifying aura contained within the sword was aimed at Kun Arashi's chest. Kohen Erasure understood that he could only pretend for a while with his sharp tongue. When the time came for him to fight, the moment would come. There was no doubt about it. Moreover, Kohen Erasure also knew how serious the effect of his words were. Immediately, the Kohen winged spear appeared in his hand and blocked in front of him, blocking the sword aura. Seeing the two of them fighting, Elder Yuan didn't panic. Elder Xiao Yuan was no longer in a hurry. Previously, this Lan Kun brat dared to boast so shamelessly. In that case, he would get his disciples to teach this brat a lesson. This disciple of mine is a little impulsive. Tian Fei, you have to be careful. If you break anything in the Mirror Moon Villa, you will be held responsible. Xiao Yuan pretended to be angry as he spoke. He seemed to be warning his disciple, Tian Fei. However, in reality, he was mocking Kohen Erasure. What he meant was that if his disciple wanted to cripple Kohen Erasure, he could do it with a raise of his hand. He wouldn't even touch anything in the surroundings. Let's see if you are afraid or not. Hearing Elder Yuan's words, Tian Fei's lips curled into a smile. Elder, don't worry. Tian Fei will be able to defeat this brat in 3 moves. Tian Fei twirled the snow-white longsword in his hand and immediately released rays of light. Then, a sword light emerged from the longsword and spread out like ripples in the water. Boom! The sword aura vibrated. In an instant, it rushed in front of Kohen Erasure. Kohen Erasure also circulated his Yuan power. Under such circumstances, if he was defeated in 3 moves, it would be extremely humiliating. Kohen Flash! Kohen Erasure shouted in a low voice and the spear in his hand madly thrust out. Immediately, it rushed out like a bolt of lightning. Boom! Boom! The sword chi that came from the front was also shattered by Lan Kun. However, the instant he attacked, Kohen Erasure clearly sensed that there seemed to be some kind of power approaching him from behind. When he turned around, he realized that Tian Fei had already appeared behind him. Is that all you've got? 1 move is enough to kill you. Tian Fei said disdainfully. The sword in his hand was already stabbing towards Kohen Erashi's throat. Master Jingyue sat up straight and her hands moved slightly. Tian Fei wanted to kill someone in front of her. That was a little arrogant. However, just as Jingyue was about to attack, she realized that something was amiss. Then, she sat down. Tian Fei's gaze and the sword in his hand had already locked onto Kohen Erashi's neck. Kohen Erasure, a piece of trash who had not even broken through to the Yuan monarch realm, dared to be arrogant in front of him, a grade 3 Yuan monarch. The strength of these sect disciples was different from that of unaffiliated cultivators. The bigger the sect, the more difficult it was for them to live like a prince. The competitiveness of these disciples would be even more terrifying. Therefore, to be able to stand out in such a large sect, one had to have gone through a lot of hardships. Therefore, Tian Fei's attack was extremely ruthless. He had already determined Kohen Erashi's strength based on his actions. It could be said that Kohen Erashi's strength was rather ordinary. In front of a true sect expert, Kohen Erasure simply did not have the slightest ability to retaliate. Just as Tian Fei was about to stab Kohen Erasure with his sword and make him bleed, he suddenly felt a gust of wind coming from behind him. This was a dangerous feeling. Tian Fei instinctively withdrew his sword and placed it behind him. It had to be said that Tian Fei's reaction speed was very fast. However, in front of the person behind him, it did not matter how fast he reacted. Li Zongjiu used the Desolate Heaven essence in his hand to smash Tian Fei's back. The sword in Tian Fei's hand broke with a clang. Tian Fei also spat out a mouthful of blood. When the blood spurted out, Tian Fei felt a strong sense of dizziness. There was also a feeling of his strength being torn apart that was hidden in his body. Tian Fei could not believe that Li Zongjiu's attack was so ruthless that it felt like his internal organs were about to be shattered. Bang! Tian Fei's entire body flew out. With a bang, he directly crushed a table. Tian Fei sat paralyzed in the ruins with blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. At this moment, a sharp pain came from his lower abdomen. Tian Fei finally understood that his yuan bead had been damaged. My yuan bead. Tian Fei briefly sensed his condition and his face turned ashen. This was because he could sense that his yuan bead had been shattered into pieces. At the same time, his body was like a rubber ball that was riddled with holes. The yuan qi that he had painstakingly cultivated for 20 years had completely dissipated. Boom! No! Tian Fei immediately roared towards the sky. When Elder Xiao Yuan saw this, he immediately stepped forward and appeared beside Tian Fei. He poured yuan qi into Tian Fei's body and glared angrily at Li Zongjiu, who was holding the desolate heaven essence. What a vicious brat! He actually destroyed his yuan bead. Destroyed his yuan bead. Immediately, all the mystic yuan sect disciples present gasped. They looked at the young man who had been standing beside Kun Erisher and had not said a single word since the beginning. However, he had destroyed Tian Fei's yuan bead the moment he attacked. Tian Fei's strength was not much different from theirs. Who knew that he would end up in such a state? Furthermore, even if there was a grudge between the two of them, there was no need to destroy someone's yuan bead the moment he attacked. This was indeed too cruel. In the eyes of the mystic yuan sect disciples, Li Zongjiu was the devil. Even Master Jingyue was shocked by Li Zongjiu's methods. She originally thought that Kun Erisher was arrogant enough. However, Li Zongjiu's actions seemed to be even more brutal and direct than Kun Erisher. At most, Lan Kun would only curse a few words. However, when Li Zongjiu attacked, he directly crippled the elemental bead of one of the disciples. This was equivalent to destroying the other party's cultivation. In the eyes of an outsider, such a scene was simply vicious and merciless. Furthermore, he did not even care about his own life. Where did this Li Zongjiu get the guts to directly cripple someone's essence pearl cultivation? This was equivalent to crippling Tian Fei. Previously, he was still calling others trash. Now that it was his turn, he had directly become trash as well. It made people sigh. Today, I will give Shueyu a face and not kill you. Li Zongjiu kept the desolate heaven essence in his hand and walked forward with his hands behind his back. He looked at the people in front of him. Who was it that wanted to steal my brother's woman? Just step forward. Chapter 692. Once Li Zongjiu's words came out, everyone present was stunned. They simply couldn't believe their own eyes. Was this guy trying to provoke the entire mystic yuan sect? What did he mean by, your brother's woman? At first, Shueyu was worried that something would happen to Li Zongjiu and Li Zongjiu, so she had to protect them no matter what. However, she did not expect Li Zongjiu to say such words. She was so angry that she stomped her feet. Who is your brother's woman? How shameless! She stomped her feet in anger. This caused Shueyu herself to become extremely shy. Master Jingyue had a strange expression on her face. Shueyu was the name Princess Jingan used outside. Naturally, Master Jingyue was aware of this. Gong Changhe, who was about to explode, could not hold it in any longer. The woman he fancied was actually Li Zongjiu's brother's woman. He was simply courting death. Gong Changhe's strength of a grade 5 yuan monarch instantly erupted. Brat, I'll meet you today. Gong Changhe roared angrily. Then, his figure suddenly rushed towards Li Zongjiu. He was using the powerful jade breaking palm that he was extremely proficient in. Immediately, he felt a fishy wind blowing in his surroundings. Boom! When Gong Changhe made his move, Elder Xiao Yuan realized that the situation was not good. There was something strange about that kid. Tian Fei was crippled before he could even see it clearly. Even if Gong Changhe personally made his move, he might not be able to gain any benefits from it. Be careful. Elder Xiaoyuan only had time to shout. Then, he saw Li Zongjiu smash Gong Changhe's head with his staff. Originally, this blow was enough to cause Gong Changhe to suffer a concussion. However, a ray of light appeared above Gong Changhe's head and directly shattered this force. Boom! The light that had just appeared above Gong Changhe's head was immediately suppressed. My purple gold helmet! Gong Changhe immediately cried out in alarm, and his body fell heavily to the ground. Li Zongjiu could not help but wave the desolate heaven essence in his hand. He glanced at the desolate heaven essence in his hand before looking at Gong Changhe. You're quite stubborn. Li Zongjiu could not help but ask. However, when Li Zongjiu smashed the purple gold helmet, it was no different from cutting off a piece of flesh for Gong Changhe. This purple gold helmet was a gift from Gong Changhe's father when he came of age. With the purple gold helmet, even if he was facing an epic emperor, he wouldn't be killed instantly. At the very least, he would be able to resist for a while. He had worn the purple gold helmet for many years, but he had never used it. Now, Li Zongjiu had smashed the purple gold helmet into pieces with just a light blow. This was a defensive Yuan artifact that could withstand the attack of a primitive emperor. It was destroyed in Li Zongjiu's hands, and it was in such a dubious battle. The cost of a second-grade Yuan artifact could not even be measured by gold Yuan or purple Yuan coins. It would cost at least tens of thousands of high-grade Yuan stones to buy this purple gold helmet. You destroyed my purple gold helmet. Gong Changhe immediately pointed at Li Zongjiu in an incomparably furious manner. He had never imagined that this insignificant Li Zongjiu, a mere member of the Sacred Flame Imperial City, would be able to so easily destroy his purple gold helmet. In fact, if it weren't for the purple gold helmet, Gong Changhe's head would have exploded. It wouldn't be Gong Changhe's turn to clamor here. Set up the formation. A mystic Yuan sect disciple immediately roared when he saw the situation. He was considered a senior among the remaining disciples. The remaining 6 mystic Yuan sect disciples immediately raised their swords and surrounded Li Zongjiu. 6 swords were pointed at Li Zongjiu. Master, Shueiyue immediately pulled Master Jingyue's arm and shouted when she saw this scene. She was afraid that Li Zongjiu would be killed by the mystic Yuan sect disciples in front of her. However, Master Jingyue merely raised her hand. The scene before her eyes could be said to be extremely exciting. She had never thought that even the people of the mystic Yuan sect would dare to behave atrociously in her Jingyue villa. Master Jingyue's usual temperament was really too gentle. Now, she could borrow Li Zongjiu's hand to teach the people of the mystic Yuan sect a lesson. However, she naturally wouldn't do such a stupid thing to make the people of the mystic Yuan sect her enemy. Master Jingyue herself was an primitive emperor powerhouse. However, a mere primitive emperor powerhouse would find it difficult to make an enemy out of the mystic Yuan sect. No need. Your friend's strength isn't that simple. Li Zongjiu's 2 attacks could be said to be full of lethality. This was clearly a wolf in a flock of sheep. It was almost impossible for these people to take down Li Zongjiu. Killing formation, destroy. The swords in the hands of the 6 mystic Yuan sect disciples started to spin wildly, as if they had gathered into 6 extremely terrifying sword auras that directly shrouded Li Zongjiu. In the face of this terrifying killing formation, Li Zongjiu didn't take it seriously at all. His figure flashed and disappeared from the spot. He's escaping. He was clearly locked in by the sword formation, but he was able to escape so easily. This was extremely inconceivable in the eyes of others. Li Zongjiu waved the desolate heavenly essence in his hand. The great desolation chi seemed to extend out. With a whistling sound, it directly swept up the 6 of them, trapping them together. With a swoosh sound, it directly flung the 6 of them away. Bang! Bang! The 6 of them flew out of the house. As their Yuan Qi was locked by the Desolation Qi, the 6 of them couldn't even stabilize their bodies when they were thrown out. He rolled down from the top of the mountain. Rumble. Elder, save us. They couldn't move because of the desolation qi and could only shout loudly at the top of their lungs. Elder Xiaoyuan couldn't endure anything. At this moment, an extremely terrifying yuan power undulation was circulating on his only right hand as it blasted towards Li Zongjiu. Xiao Yuan was also an Yuan Emperor powerhouse. However, he did not display the power of an Yuan Emperor powerhouse when he made his move. He merely made his strength reach the level of a peak Yuan monarch. Even so, the power of his move was still very terrifying. The surrounding space seemed to have been compressed. Li Zongjiu indeed felt a wave of pressure. However, the desolate heavenly essence in his hand trembled slightly and easily shattered the aura. Hand over your life. Li Zongjiu directly faced the attack with his staff. Under the desolate heavenly essence, any kind of power would have to give way. Boom! Elder Xiaoyuan's figure was instantly thrown out and landed on the ground. He held his hand behind his back. There was a trace of horror in his eyes as he looked at Li Zongjiu. He was grimacing in his heart. What kind of power did this kid have to be so powerful? The weapon in his hand was definitely not simple. It was a pity that if he used the Yuan Emperor's power today, the Mirror Emperor would definitely not let him off. He would definitely not let him take action. Therefore, he could only forcefully endure it. Elder Xiaoyuan, did you deliberately come to the Mirror Moon Villa today to show off your power? Master Jingyue slowly got up and asked. She also knew that it was time for her to take action. Otherwise, no one knew what would happen if Li Zongjiu continued to cause trouble. Many Yuan King disciples were thrown down the mountain by Li Zongjiu. Judging from the situation of the previous exchange, it was obvious that Elder Xiaoyuan had suffered quite a bit. Even with so many people working together, they still couldn't hurt Li Zongjiu at all. If this continued, it would only be a kind of battle where all pretenses of cordiality were torn apart. Chapter 693. Xiao Yuan took a deep breath. As one of the 7 elders in charge of the Xianyuan sect, there was nothing that he could not accomplish if he personally came to handle this matter. Now that the Mirror Emperor was clearly standing on the side of Li Zongjiu and the others and wanted to drive them away, Xiao Yuan would definitely make these people regret it. Xiao Yuan has offended you. Since Princess Jingan is not interested in the Grey Flame True Spirit Elixir, we will take our leave first. When he mentioned the Grey Flame True Spirit Elixir, he gritted his teeth and enunciated the words clearly. Shueiyue shuddered when she heard this. She did not know what to do when she thought of her mother's situation. You treat a mere Grey Flame True Spirit Elixir as a treasure? Li Zongjiu said disdainfully when he heard this. Xiao Yuan sneered when he heard this. Kid, the Xianyuan sect is at a disadvantage today. You have hurt my disciples. I, Xiao Yuan, will not let you off. Xiao Yuan waved his hand and prepared to leave. Now that the Mirror Emperor was present, it was naturally inappropriate for him to make a move. Xiao Yuan would wait until Li Zongjiu was alone, or when there was another opportunity, he would use his own means to make Li Zongjiu realize his mistake. Then, he would personally kill him. This was the most correct way to make Li Zongjiu learn how to behave. Who had gone to look for Li Zongjiu and Kun Erisher, had been standing in the corner and watching everything that had happened. The strength of the Xianyuan sect was unquestionable. When she saw that elder sitting together with Master Jingyue, she knew his strength and status. To be able to sit on the same level as Master Jingyue, such a person would be an extremely top-notch existence even in the Sacred Flame Palace. Now, one after another, they had all been easily crippled by Li Zongjiu. And now, they had all left with their tails between their legs. One had never expected such an outcome. How could things have developed like this? Er's original intention was to elope with Kun Erisher with the young lady, because anyone could see that this was a deliberate trap. She was waiting for her young miss to jump in herself. He wanted to use a single pill to decide the marriage of his young Mississippi. Such a thing was not allowed to happen. However, she never thought that Li Zongjiu's appearance would cause an unexpected change in the situation. No wonder this guy was asking all sorts of questions in the carriage and even brought her directly to the Mirror Moon Mountain Villa, preventing even worse things from happening. As for Tian Fei, he could be considered useless. This arrogant fellow had ended up like this in the end. Just you wait. Gong Changhe grabbed Tian Fei. In any case, Tian Fei was his loyal lackey, so it was only right to take him away. It was impossible for him to leave Tian Fei here. However, before he walked in front of Li Zongjiu, he left behind some harsh words. Ahem, when did I say that you can leave? Li Zongjiu coughed a few times and looked at the two men when he saw that Xiao Yuan and the others were about to step out of the door. Xiao Yuan's eyelids twitched and his right hand clenched into a fist. A loud cracking sound was heard. This brat was clearly asking for a yard after taking an inch. Insatiable. He did not take the one-armed Xiao Yuan seriously at all. It's not impossible for me to forgive your offense. Either each of you leave behind an arm or hand over the Grey Flame True Spirit Pill. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. He sounded very serious and did not sound like he was joking at all. However, anyone with a normal brain would think that there was something wrong with Li Zongjiu's brain. The experts of the Mystic Yuan sect in front of them only gave face to the Mirror Emperor and didn't bother with you. But now, you're actually pushing your luck. You're jealous and arrogant. You're taking advantage of them and even threaten to make them hand over the Pale Flame True Spirit Pill before you forgive them. Otherwise, it would be too hilarious to just leave an arm behind. It was clearly aimed at Xiao Yuan's remaining right hand. Mirror Emperor's expression became somewhat meaningful. Until now, Mirror Emperor had been able to suppress what Li Zongjiu and Kun Erisher had done. Although Tian Fei was injured, he could only blame himself for being inferior. There was also Gong Changhe. Although his purple golden helmet was smashed, he was still alive. If Yi Shiwen wanted to settle the score with him, he would have to wait until he had enough strength to settle the score with Yi Shiwen. However, Li Zongjiu's current behavior was already equivalent to taking the initiative to provoke him. Such behavior was an act of overestimating one's own capabilities in the eyes of anyone. Did he really think that he was not a match for the other party just because they did not make a fuss about it? What, did you say? Xiao Yuan was already starting to get excited. He had never thought that Li Zongjiu would actually say such a thing. Although there was an agreement among the Primitive Emperor experts that they could not casually display their Primitive Emperor strength, such strength would definitely be extremely destructive. The city walls that tens of thousands of people had worked day and night to build would probably be turned into a pile of ruins in just one move. It was basically a waste of manpower and resources for an Primitive Emperor to make a move. It was better when one was in the wilderness. It did not matter if one could destroy the mountains and rivers. However, if one went overboard, the heavens would naturally punish one. However, if one took the initiative to provoke an Primitive Emperor expert in the city, the nature of the situation would be different. It was only right for an Primitive Emperor expert to kill one. Even some of the destruction would be the responsibility of one's side. If one died, one's family would have to repay this huge debt. They would even have to compensate for the damage to the Primitive Emperor's reputation. It could be seen that as long as one did not take the initiative to provoke an Primitive Emperor expert, it was still relatively safe. However, if one took the initiative to provoke an Primitive Emperor, just like Li Zongjiu, the outcome would be one's own death. Leave behind the elixir, or the three of you, leave behind 3 of your arms. Do you understand now? Li Zongjiu said faintly. If he let these people go, Li Zongjiu would lose face in the future. How could people who had offended the great evil lord walk out of here safely? That was because Li Zongjiu was still relatively low-key. According to the character of Li Zongjiu in his previous life, these 3 people would have been beheaded long ago. How could they continue to breathe freely here? And just like what Li Zongjiu said, the reason why he did not kill them now was to give face to Shueiyue. Xiao Yuan could not help but laugh when he heard this. It had been a long time since he heard such arrogant words. This was clearly giving him a chance to kill Li Zongjiu. Good, very good. Xiao Yuan looked at Li Zongjiu and laughed loudly. Chapter 694. Mirror Emperor extended her hand and blocked Shueiyue behind her. In the end, she sighed helplessly. Li Zongjiu's performance today had really impressed Master Mirror Moon. However, it was a pity that he wasn't in too much of a hurry to seek his own death. Although he could have survived today's tribulation, Li Zongjiu's actions were a little too arrogant. Master, this is your friend's own choice. You can't blame anyone else, Master Mirror Moon said slowly. Then, Master Mirror Moon waved her hand. Kuan Erisher walked to the side and greeted Shueiyue. It was definitely right to leave the rest to Li Zongjiu. Given Li Zongjiu's strength, it was very normal for him to cripple these people. Kuan Erisher did not doubt this at all. You want my Mystic Yuan Sex Elixir pills? Sure, let me see how capable you are. A tyrannical aura was suddenly released from Xiao Yuan's body. At this moment, the empty sleeve of his left hand suddenly twisted into a sharp longsword. Mystic Yuan Pierce. Xiao Yuan took the initiative to attack Li Zongjiu. The power of this move had already surpassed the peak of the Yuan monarch realm. It was enough to see that the surrounding space had already become extremely cold. As the principal elder of the Mystic Yuan sect, he naturally had to have some ability. The Mystic Yuan Pierce was only considered an ordinary Yuan technique in the Mystic Yuan sect. However, in the hands of Xiao Yuan, the terrifying power it produced was not something an ordinary Yuan monarch powerhouse could withstand. This move had already used the strength of a Yuan monarch. Ha ha! Foolish fellow, how dare you provoke an Yuan monarch powerhouse? Gong Changhe was ecstatic. Now that Li Zongjiu had offended Elder Xiao Yuan would definitely crush him. The dignity of an Yuan monarch powerhouse could not be challenged so easily. Gong Changhe could only watch as the arrogant Li Zongjiu died. Not only that, but Elder Xiao Yuan also wanted Li Zongjiu's life and the weapon that belonged to Li Zongjiu. Sigh, Li Zongjiu shook his head helplessly. I was kind-hearted, and wanted to give all living beings more chances. But, these foolish living beings, Li Zongjiu immediately held the desolate heaven essence in his hand and smashed it in front of him, directly breaking Xiao Yuan's aura. Elder Xiao Yuan was taken aback. He had already raised his power to the Yuan Emperor realm, but Li Zongjiu still managed to break through it with a single move. When Li Zongjiu made another move, Xiao Yuan was shocked again. What the fuck? Li Elder Xiao Yuan's body, Xiao Yuan Monarch's body, Xiao Yuan Monarch. Boom! Xiao Yuan Monarch was immediately sent flying. Boom! He slammed his head against the beam of the door and almost broke a tooth in his mouth. His body fell to the ground. It seems like the few of you have chosen to leave your hands behind. Li Zongjiu's face was cold as he waved his hand. Suddenly, the vast flying knife with a trace of cold light flew toward Xiao Yuan's arm. Elder Xiao Yuan Monarch had just stood up when he felt a sharp pain coming from his arm. Hiss! Pa! One of his arms was chopped off. Xiao Yuan Monarch did not even have time to react. A dignified primitive emperor's arm was easily chopped off just like that. Although Xiao Yuan Monarch was only a first-grade Yuan Monarch, it was very difficult to injure an Yuan Monarch expert. However, Li Zongjiu had done it so easily. So what if he was an Yuan Monarch? In his previous life, once Li Zongjiu became the evil lord, the number of sovereign experts he had killed was not small. It was basically as easy as stepping on an ant to kill a person in the Yuan Emperor realm. My hand! Xiao Yuan Monarch suddenly shouted. He could not even pick up his hand that had fallen to the ground because he had lost one of his hands. Such a situation was no doubt shocking to Xiao Yuan. When Master Jingyue saw this scene, she sucked in a breath of cold air. What was going on? Li Zongjiu seemed a little strange from the start. This was because even Master Miramoon was unable to see through Li Zongjiu. It seemed that the power within Li Zongjiu's body was extremely terrifying. Therefore, even now, Master Jingyue could not see through Li Zongjiu's strength. Even Master Jingyue had figured it out at this moment. As for Li Zongjiu, he couldn't even treat him as a young man. Although Li Zongjiu's strength had yet to reach the Yuan monarch realm, his imposing manner was already on par with them. Master Jingyue was still very shocked when she thought of this. Your friend. Where did he come from? Master Jingyue could not help but ask. An Yuan monarch expert seemed to be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered in front of him. He was not arrogant at all. He did not show any advantage in terms of strength or identity in front of Li Zongjiu. Therefore, even Master Jingyue could not help but ask about Li Zongjiu's background. My boss. Lan Kun said proudly. With such a boss, it was really too awesome. If he were to tell others about what had happened today, no one would believe it. His boss Li Zongjiu had actually helped him beat up an Yuan monarch expert. At first, he thought that Xiao Yuan was going easy on him, but now he saw that Xiao Yuan's arm had been chopped off. Such a scene could no longer be faked. Next, it's your turn. Li Zongjiu stretched out his hand and the vast flying knife reappeared in his hand. Then, the vast flying knife in his hand rotated gently in his palm, as if waiting for Li Zongjiu to give the order at any time. When Li Zongjiu looked at Gong Changhe became nervous. Gong Changhe suddenly became nervous. No, don't chop off my arm. Don't chop off my arm. I'll give you elixirs. I'll give you elixirs. The purple golden helmet had been destroyed, the mystic Yuan sect sword formation had been broken, and even the last arm of Xiao Yuan had been chopped off. What else was there to say? If he did not beg for mercy, the outcome would be obvious. Li Zongjiu would not hesitate to chop off his arm. Where there's life, there's hope. Gong Changhe warned himself in his heart, and then quickly handed over the Grey Flame True Spirit Elixir. When Shueiyue saw the Grey Flame True Spirit Elixir appear, her eyes were filled with excitement. If he wanted to obtain that Sanyan True Spirit Pill from Gong Changhe, he would naturally have to pay a heavy price. However, if he wanted to obtain that Sanyan True Spirit Pill from Li Zongjiu, it would be much simpler. At the very least, it was not impossible. If you had done this earlier, your elder's arm would not have been chopped off. Why bother? Li Zongjiu took the elixir and casually glanced at it. He knew that there was no problem with the elixir, and then threw it to Kun Erishir behind him. Chapter 695. Grade 7 Elixir, Azure Flame True Spirit Elixir. How could it be thrown away? It was a grade 7 elixir after all. Wasn't he going to give it some face? Wasn't he looking down on a grade 7 elixir too much? Kun Erishir reached out to take the elixir. He naturally understood Li Zongjiu's intentions. Thank you boss, hee. Kun Erishir then passed the elixir to Shueiyue who was beside him. Shueiyue quivered. What was the meaning of this? Why did it feel like such a precious elixir was just a piece of candy in Li Zongjiu's hands? Scram! Li Zongjiu kept the desolate heaven essence and waved his hand at the people in front of him. In the end, he only lost an arm. The rest of the people could be considered to have kept their lives. After all, the mystic Yuan sect wasn't weak. Li Zongjiu had never heard of the mystic Yuan sect. He estimated that after 1,000 years, the mystic Yuan sect would have fallen to a second or third-rate sect. Gong Changhe also helped Xiao Yuan, who had lost an arm, up. At the same time, he also picked up the severed arm. Xiao Yuan finally gave Li Zongjiu an extremely fierce look. He deeply remembered Li Zongjiu's appearance. In the future, he would definitely find Li Zongjiu for revenge. But at the very least, he didn't dare to say such harsh words. He chopped off the arm when he said so. He didn't hesitate at all. If he could do such a crazy thing so casually, it was possible that he might do something else that was extremely extreme. Therefore, Xiao Yuan and the rest chose to leave first. The group of people immediately left. Only after being beaten up will you know fear. Li Zongjiu couldn't help but say. In the room, because of Tian Fei's actions, a table was smashed. He didn't know if it was expensive or not. I'm sorry. You can count the broken furniture as Kun Arashi's fault. Li Zongjiu cupped his hands and said to Master Jingyue. In any case, this was the other party's territory. After barging in and destroying everything in the other party's territory, how could they not feel embarrassed? Hee, it's fine. It's just a table. How should I address this young hero? Master Jingyue hurriedly waved her hand. Kun Arashir just happened to force the elixir into Shueiyue's hands. Take it first. Anyway, I snatched it. I didn't spend any money. Upon hearing Kun Arashi's words, Master Jingyue couldn't help but want to take her shoes off. Kun Arashi's head but. The Jingyue's head. Li Zongjiu. I'm the master of the Jingyue Mountain Villa. You can call me Jingyue. You don't have to be polite. Master Jingyue said. Although Xiao Yuan and the others were injured in the Jingyue Villa today, Master Jingyue was not afraid. She was not afraid even if the mystic Yuan sect came knocking on her door. Could it be that she, the Master Jingyue, was afraid of the mystic Yuan sect? Even if the mystic Yuan sect was powerful, it couldn't be said to be above Master Jingyue's head. Shueiyue was shocked. She knew her master very well. To be able to say such words, it meant that she treated Li Zongjiu as one of her own. She wasn't even angry at Li Zongjiu and the rest. Instead, she was very appreciative. It's an honor to meet you. It was rare for Li Zongjiu to be modest. After all, she was also an primitive emperor expert. If Li Zongjiu's eyesight was not wrong, Master Jingyue's strength should be at the level of a second-grade primitive emperor, or even a third-grade primitive emperor. Such strength could definitely kill Xiao Yuan instantly. After all, Xiao Yuan was only at the first-grade origin emperor realm. Although he hadn't heard of Jingyue's name, it wasn't difficult to compliment her verbally. Shueiyue, have you collected the 1 billion purple yuan? Li Zongjiu looked at Shueiyue. He had already promised Shueiyue that he would be willing to sell as long as she collected the 1 billion purple yuan. According to other people's prices, it would easily be over 10 billion purple yuan. This was already the price of a favor. After all, it was a matter of principle. Therefore, Li Zongjiu didn't have the slightest concession. This was naturally the case. 1 billion is too much. Shueiyue almost burst into tears. She didn't notice this at ordinary times, but when she started to earn money, she deeply discovered that 1 billion purple yuan was too much. It was simply an endless number, and it was unbearable for her. Therefore, almost half a year had passed, but she still hadn't earned the 1 billion purple yuan. You are the alchemist who can treat Princess Jing'an's mother. Master Jingyue looked at Li Zongjiu with some surprise in her eyes. She had heard Shueiyue mention this before, but at that time, Master Jingyue only thought that it was a swindler who wanted to swindle money. Therefore, she didn't lend the money to Shueiyue. That's right. Li Zongjiu nodded. However, the consultation fee is the lowest, not a cent less. Even if Kun Arashir comes to me, there is no room for discussion. Li Zongjiu said solemnly. Wait, Princess Jing'an. Ah, so you are a princess. Kun Arashir looked at Shueiyue in surprise. If they had come a little later today, Shueiyue might have been taken away and married to that lunatic just now. However, Kun Erishur didn't expect that Shueiyue's true identity was actually a princess. You don't know. Shueiyue lowered her head in embarrassment, but Master Jingyue was even more surprised. These people didn't know that Shueiyue was the current Princess Jingan, but they actually charged in so bravely, paid so much, and offended the mystic Yuan sect. With such a huge price, Master Jingyue thought that these two people already knew the identity of Princess Jingan. Now, she admired these two young people even more. I didn't mean to hide it from you. I was afraid that if you knew my identity, you would feel inferior and kneel down when you see me all day long. A second ago, Shueiyue looked delicate and pitiful, but the next second, she became mischievous. TSK, TSK, TSK. You are so beautiful. Fortunately, you are a princess. Otherwise, if you stayed beside me, the little prince of Kun Castle, I was afraid that you would feel inferior. I thought you were the daughter of some potato tycoon in the city, but it turns out that you are a princess. Kun Erishur said. Princess or not, it didn't mean much to Kun Erishur. However, in the future, Kun Erishur still had to work harder. It wasn't so easy to marry the princess of the Shengyan dynasty. Chapter 696. 1 billion purple yuan. Although she didn't know why Li Zongjiu was so obsessed with this number, Master Jingyue knew that Li Zongjiu wasn't there for the money. If he was there for the money, then what about the Grade 7 elixir pill? The Blue Flame True Spirit elixir. Or perhaps Xiao Yuan's arm from before was worth far more than this. If it's 1 billion purple yuan, then the value of this elixir pill would be far more than that. Master Jingyue said. Would Princess Jingan be willing to sell this elixir pill to me? Master Jingyue said with a smile. With 1 billion purple yuan, she could directly let Li Zongjiu treat her. Therefore, Master Jingyue was actually helping Princess Jingan in disguise. As an primitive emperor powerhouse, it wasn't difficult for her to take out 1 billion purple yuan. The few big banks had a special overdraft quota for the primitive emperor level powerhouses. Which one of them wasn't worth more than 10 billion purple yuan? If Master wants this elixir pill, then I'll reluctantly estimate it at 5 billion purple yuan. Shueiyue's state of mind was completely different from before. She hadn't expected that she would have the opportunity to chase away all those annoying people and obtain a grade 7 elixir pill. In Shueiyue's opinion, the young sect master wasn't a hero at all. Shueiyue was disappointed that he had surrendered so quickly. She just liked to bully people who weren't strong enough. However, she couldn't sell the elixir pill to her master at a cheap price. Therefore, Shueiyue directly increased the price by 5 times when she opened her mouth. 5 billion purple yuan for a grade 7 elixir pill was really something that couldn't be found so cheaply. Master Jingyue's face turned purple when she heard that her disciple had actually tricked her. She really didn't give her any face. This made Master Jingyue so angry that her hands were trembling. You mischievous brat. You actually schemed against your master. Master Jingyue pointed at Shueiyue. However, if he could buy a 7th grade pill with 5 billion purple yuan coins, it would be a bargain. No one in the mystic Yuan sect was able to refine the Grey Flame True Spirit pill. Even if the pavilion master of the longevity pavilion came, he might not be able to refine this pill. After all, this was a pill recipe from ancient times. Even if he could refine it, it would be very difficult to obtain so many precious herbs. Therefore, this Grey Flame True Spirit pill was definitely something that had already gone out of print. 5 billion purple yuan in his pocket was not a loss at all. If master doesn't want it, then I can only go to the palace. Shueiyue was also a mischievous person. When she saw that Master Jingyue was still hesitating, she waved the pill in her hand and prepared to leave. Wait! Master Jingyue hurriedly stopped Shueiyue. She knew that this little girl was deliberately playing tricks, but she had no choice. She had to fork out the money. Otherwise, this little girl might really take the pill away. If the people in the palace found out, they might fight to the death. After all, this elixir was in the hands of the Xianyuan sect previously and it was not convenient for them to take action. However, now that it had appeared in the hands of this little girl, it would not be strange for them to obtain this elixir with a little coercion and enticement. Therefore, Master Jingyue was very anxious. This is the origin stone card from the Hangtong Bank. Its value is definitely more than 5 billion purple yuan coins. Take it. Master Jingyue threw out a white card. By relying on this yuan stone card, one would be able to directly withdraw yuan stones from the Hangtong Bank. This was a treatment that only origin emperors could enjoy. The rest of the people did not even dare to think about it. Hee, deal. Shueiyue saw this and immediately handed the pill to Master Jingyue. She also handed the card over to Li Zongjio. This should be more than 1 billion purple yuan coins. Is it enough for the consultation fee? This kind of left-hand to right-hand movement ended up in front of Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio was also not polite. Alright, no need to dawdle. Take me to see what's the situation. Li Zongjio said. Although Master Jingyue did not dare to believe that Li Zongjio could really cure someone, Li Zongjio's ability was not small. There was no harm in letting him give it a try. This way. Princess, be careful. Wan Er also came to Shueiyue's side and carefully served her. Outside the Jingyue villa, Xiao Yuan and the others did not go far. This trip was really too shameful. As an elder of the Xianyuan sect, he actually had his arm chopped off. Immediately, Xiao Yuan also approached and recovered on the spot. He used his lifelong skill to reattach his severed arm. The rest of the disciples also stood guard around him. Only Tian Fei, who had woken up. Tian Fei couldn't help but cry out loud when he sensed the true state of his body. All his hard work over the past few decades had been wasted just because he tried to stick his head out this time. For him, this was the most unworthy thing. Tian Fei's companions, who were on good terms with him before, were now looking at him with cold and indifferent eyes. They even began to deliberately alienate him. Now, it was impossible for Tian Fei to recover his cultivation talent. He would forever be reduced to the ranks of trash. For anyone, this feeling of falling to the bottom was hard to accept. Tian Fei, we will avenge you. Gong Changhe said in a deep voice. Tian Fei was once a loyal lackey. Now that such a thing had happened, Gong Changhe, as the young sect master, naturally had to comfort him. Young sect master, Tian Fei quickly shouted as he realized something. However, Gong Changhe also raised his hand. You don't have to say anymore. Here are 1 million purple yuan coins. Even in Saint Flame Royal City, you will definitely be able to live a comfortable life. In the future, live a good life and forget about cultivation. Gong Changhe said indifferently and then threw a card. The face value on the card was 1 million purple yuan, which could be exchanged at any bank. This also coincided with the saying that the Xianyuan sect did not accept waste. Young sect master, you. When Tian Fei heard that Gong Changhe wanted to kick him out of the door, he became even more furious. Wasn't it all because of Gong Changhe that he was reduced to such a state today? As for your storage ring, it was given to you by the sect. Now that you have voluntarily left the sect, I will return it to you. Gong Changhe immediately raised his hand and broke Tian Fei's index finger. Ah! The storage ring on Tian Fei's finger landed in Gong Changhe's hand. Although Tian Fei was crippled, there were still many valuable items in Tian Fei's possession. Gong Changhe must not waste them. Gong Changhe. You. Tian Fei was furious. Just a second ago, he, Tian Fei, was still Gong Changhe's good junior. Now, in the blink of an eye, he had become a passerby. Even when Tian Fei looked around at his surroundings, no one stepped forward to speak up for him. This ending should have been expected. No one was willing to be associated with a waste. Good, very good. Today, I, Tian Fei, will remember the young sect master's kindness to me. And all of you, my good brothers. I, Tian Fei, will remember. Tian Fei stood up and picked up the purple yuan card. In the past, he had looked down on it. However, it turned out that it could save his life. Only when he was alive, there would be other possibilities. Chapter 697. After Tian Fei left, Xiao Yuan finally recovered from his injuries. As he stood up, Xiao Yuan's eyes were filled with killing intent towards Li Zongjiu. Mirror Emperor, since you have chosen to protect this brat, so what if my Shenyuan sect exterminates him as well? At this moment, Xiao Yuan's hatred for Li Zongjiu was incomparably deep. As for the crippled Tian Fei, it was simply not a big deal. Elder, do you want to issue the sect's kill order now? Gong Changhe was also incomparably ruthless as he spoke. The sect's kill order can't be used for no reason. Xiao Yuan said with a frown. Li Zongjiu killed our sect's disciple, Tian Fei. This alone is enough to issue the sect's kill order. Gong Changhe sneered. At this moment, he had already prepared an excuse in his heart. Unfortunately, he could only let junior brother Tian Fei suffer a little. At this moment. Kill. A few people looked at each other. What was the meaning of this? However, only one of them was smarter and immediately said to Gong Changhe. Young sect leader, elder, this disciple is feeling a little unwell. I'll go somewhere far away to relieve myself. Go. Gong Changhe waved his hand. Wasn't such a simple meaning very easy to understand? Look at how smart this brat was. When the rest of the people saw that the other disciple had left, they suddenly understood what the junior sect leader meant. His actions were indeed too decisive. However, such a matter was extremely normal for them. Just by thinking about it, they knew. If a crippled person could bring value to them, they would naturally be more than happy. This was the legendary making use of trash. This Li Zongjiu dared to kill our Shenyuan sect's disciple. Immediately issue the sect's kill order. With such a valid reason, it was only natural for the sect to use the sect's must-kill order once again. Xiao Yuan also knew the reason for the current situation. However, Xiao Yuan only needed to pretend that he didn't know and everything would naturally fall into place. Li Zongjiu, not only am I going to kill you, I'm going to kill everyone in your clan. Xiao Yuan's eyes flashed with fierce killing intent. Once the sect's must-kill order was issued, the whole world would know that the mystic Yuan sect and Li Zongjiu were at war. No matter what background Li Zongjiu had, he would have to face the mystic Yuan sect head-on. Only when Li Zongjiu was killed by the mystic Yuan sect would this matter be settled. Go. We'll wait in the royal city. The outcome would probably be the same as before if only these forces attacked. They just needed to wait a little longer for the experts of the mystic Yuan sect to make their move. With the sect's must-kill order personally issued by Elder Xiao Yuan, it wouldn't be surprising if the mystic Yuan sect invited an origin emperor to take action. The entire Holy Flame royal city was about to welcome a new storm. Mirror Moon Villa. In a room filled with the scent of sandalwood, a beautiful young woman who appeared to be in her 30s was lying on the bed. Her eyes were tightly shut and she did not open them. Both of her hands were tightly clutching the blanket on her body. Beside her, a maidservant was constantly helping her wipe away the sweat that kept coming out from her forehead. Her Highness' condition is not optimistic. This strange illness has persisted for nearly 2 years. Master Jingyue explained the situation. She was Princess Jing'an's mother, concubine Xian. Concubine Xian had been recuperating for nearly half a year. Originally, she wanted to recuperate, but who knew that her body's condition would worsen? The people from the Imperial Medical Workshop were completely helpless. Many famous alchemists in the city came to diagnose her, but there were no results. However, there was an old alchemist in the palace who said that concubine Xian was suffering from the cold soul possession. The so-called cold soul possession was just a more vivid description. When the illness occurred, it was as if the cold air rose from the body. Whether it was the body or the mind, it would gradually collapse. Moreover, there was no reason for it. It was as if the cold soul possession had suddenly infected the body, and it directly turned into such a situation. It was unbelievable. A perfectly fine person would actually become like this. There was no cure for the cold soul possession. However, it was possible to temporarily suppress the cold qi in the body with the help of some fire attribute medicinal pills. This was true. This illness is a little strange. Li Zhongjiu recalled some of the conditions that he had seen over the years. Even Li Zhongjiu was a little troubled. Is there no way? Master Jingyue couldn't help but ask. Shueiyue also looked at Li Zhongjiu nervously. It is indeed difficult to completely cure it. This is because it is an illness of destiny. It is naturally very difficult to truly go against the heavens and change one's fate. Li Zhongjiu said. When Master Jingyue heard Li Zhongjiu's words, her eyes suddenly lit up. To be able to say this was enough to prove Li Zhongjiu's strength. Ordinary fools would talk about things like being possessed by water ghosts or being possessed by spirits. These things that didn't make sense were said by them clearly and logically. Therefore, concubine Xian was forced to move out of the palace because the opposition in the palace was too strong. They said that concubine Xian had an inauspicious body. Damn your whole family. You don't have the ability, yet you actually want to create so many problems. Of course, people would feel contempt for you. Master Jingyue's own judgment only had one conclusion. This was destiny. Although such a mysterious theory was hard to believe, it was something that couldn't be explained clearly. However, as Master Jingyue's strength increased, she was also able to come into contact with this so-called life. Just what exactly was this incomparably mysterious thing? Naturally, she needed to properly research it. Li Zhongjiu was able to say this at such a young age. This also surprised Master Jingyue. Therefore, Master Jingyue really thought highly of Li Zhongjiu at this moment. That's right. Concubine Xian's illness is caused by destiny. Master Jingyue said. What do you mean? Do you mean that my mother should have such a fate? Shueiyue was also confused. Koan Erisher couldn't keep up with the rhythm of the two people in front of him. What were they talking about? Originally, it wasn't. Someone forcefully changed your mother's fate. This is a treasure. Li Zhongjiu pinched his fingers and couldn't help but say. This was a good thing, but they didn't know who had used it. With such an item, it seemed easy to change someone's life. However, there were also limitations and some side effects. If you want to completely cure her, you have to find the person who used the fate-changing object and take it from him to change your mother's original fate. Otherwise, you have to rely on your mother's own efforts to change her own fate. However, the difficulty of this is no less than ascending to the heavens. Li Zhongjiu said. Now that her body is extremely cold, it is a node of fate. I will use the obsidian flame to refine her muscles, bones, blood, and flesh. Then, she will be able to survive today's tribulation. Chapter 698. After hearing Li Zhongjiu's words, Shueiyue heaved a sigh of relief and thanked the heavens. She could finally see her mother escape from this abyss of suffering. Shueiyue almost couldn't help but want to use herself in exchange for that elixir when she saw her mother in so much pain. She wanted to use this elixir to make her mother's life easier. Although she knew that this was a very disadvantageous action, she couldn't let her mother continue to suffer like this. Fortunately, Koan Erisher and Li Zhongjiu appeared. Isn't it too dangerous to use the spiritual fire to temper the bones? Master Jingyue couldn't help but ask. The spiritual fire was a very dangerous thing. If one wasn't careful, one's entire body would be burned to ashes. Furthermore, Master Jingyue had heard that such a treatment would require one to remove one's clothes in order to observe the flow of the spiritual fire in the body. If Li Zongjio were to do it, wouldn't it be, if Koen Erisher were to do it, she would most likely die. Moreover, it's just a simple tempering to get rid of some cold air. Li Zongjio waved his hand and said. This was not a very difficult thing to do. It was not like the terrifying poison that had been deeply rooted in the body for a long time and needed to be constantly refined in order to expel it from the body. It was just using the power of the spiritual fire to help warm up the blood in her body. It was a very simple and normal thing. As he spoke, Li Zongjio raised his hand and floated above concubine Xian's forehead. Beads of sweat kept appearing on her smooth forehead. As Li Zongjio's palm floated above her, a stream of spiritual fire quickly flowed into concubine Xian's body. Master Jingyue, who was watching from the side, was dumbfounded. She couldn't believe that Li Zongjio had such a method. Using such a method to enter her body, the spiritual fire seemed very simple and normal as it flowed through her body. Li Zongjio seemed to be very familiar with the process, and he was quite adept at controlling the spiritual fire. In less than 10 minutes, he had easily nurtured concubine Xian's bones and other parts of her body. Imperial concubine Xian's tightly knitted brows gradually relaxed. After relaxing, one could clearly see that Imperial concubine Xian's expression had become relatively relaxed. She immediately fell into a deep sleep. Hearing concubine Xian's breathing gradually becoming stable, the few of them were very happy. Mother. Shu. Your mother needs to rest now. Li Zongjio said. Master Jingyue had seen the young man's terrifying means. She was extremely shocked to see that he had such strength. This was originally a very difficult problem, but now it was easily solved by Li Zongjio. Everyone came out of the house. Li Zongjio also copied a book that was suitable for Imperial concubine Xian's body to cultivate. This set of flying celestial art is suitable for her body to cultivate. If she wants to change her fate, she has to cultivate this book after she wakes up. You can't relax for a moment. Thank you, thank you. Shueiyue took the book and was quite happy and excited. She didn't expect today's matter. Although it was very ridiculous and strange, at least it could be considered as solving some difficult problems. Heroes indeed come from the young. Even this old woman can't compare to your means. Master Jingyue said. She was not trying to flatter Li Zongjio. With her cultivation, there was no need for her to flatter Li Zongjio. Instead, she felt heartfelt admiration for Li Zongjio's strength. It was said that Li Zongjio was already a grade 5 alchemist at such a young age. Even this point was enough to instantly kill Gong Changhe just now. Gong Changhe could be said to be scared witless. When he heard that he had to cut off an arm, he also fled in a panic. This made people look at him with disdain. Such a person without determination and perseverance, how could he last long on the path of cultivation? But today, you offended the Xianyuan sect. These people will definitely not let you go. If you don't have the confidence to deal with them, you can stay in my Jingyue mountain villa. Master Jingyue was also very interested in Li Zongjio. She wanted to know what kind of situation and environment he was in to be able to train such a young man. With so many great abilities, it would be a pity if he was killed by the Xianyuan sect because of this accident. More or less, this Li Zongjio should be given some time. A mere Xianyuan sect is nothing. If they dare to come, just wait for their sect to be destroyed. Li Zongjio said indifferently. If it had been before, Master Mirror Moon would have thought that Li Zongjio was dreaming and delusional. She might have even thought that he had symptoms of madness. But now, after listening to Li Zongjio's words, he thought that Li Zongjio might have some other means. Even if he couldn't destroy the sect, it wouldn't be a problem to protect himself a little. If that's the case, that's even better. Master Jingyue nodded and said. Then, Li Zongjiu looked at Kun Erasure, it's rare that Master Jingyue doesn't dislike you and allows you to serve in the villa. You have to perform well. I still have a lot of things to deal with, so I'll take my leave first. Li Zongjiu stood up and said. He didn't continue to stay in the Jingyue Mountain Villa. After saying that, Li Zongjiu left in a huff and didn't give Master Jingyue a chance to refuse. Kun Erasure naturally knew that Li Zongjiu was clearly helping him. Firstly, he could stay here with Shueiyue. Secondly, he could cultivate in front of Master Jingyue. Given Master Jingyue's strength, a casual pointer from her would be enough for Kun Erasure to benefit. With Li Zongjiu's words, Master Jingyue naturally had to give him some face. More or less, she would give Kun Erasure some pointers. Of course, it was mainly because Master Jingyue saw that Kun Erasure was a good kid. Although he didn't give pointers easily, once he opened his mouth, it would be very beneficial. He's so young, yet he can understand fate. I'm sure his realm isn't below mine. Master Jingyue looked at Li Zongjiu's back as he left. In fact, Master Jingyue only said this. She didn't say it out loud. Li Zongjiu's realm seemed to be above hers. Even so, Shueiyue and Kun Erasure, who were behind her, looked as if they had seen something shocking that they had never seen before in this world. They hadn't expected Master Jingyue to think so highly of Li Zongjiu. Perhaps Li Zongjiu really had such a great ability. Chapter 699. After leaving the Miramoon Villa, Li Zongjiu walked slowly, admiring the scenery along the way. When they passed by a forest in front of them, they heard rustling sounds coming from the forest. Qin Liang. Do you really want me to die? Tian Fei's heart was filled with anger. Even his tone was filled with sadness, as if he was at the end of the road. He had never imagined that his best friend would be the first person to come after his life. Tian Fei felt that this was ridiculous, infuriating, and lamentable. Tian Fei, you can't blame me. The young sect master wants to borrow your men. You can do your brother a favor. Qin Liang smiled sinisterly. Tian Fei was indeed vigilant. He had actually hidden himself very quickly. He still had a few treasures on him that could conceal his aura. Clearly, he knew that they would chase after him and kill him. Qin Liang had to search for Tian Fei for a long time before he found him. Although Tian Fei had taken good care of Qin Liang in the past, killing Tian Fei would allow Qin Liang to raise his head in front of the young sect master. Perhaps the young sect master would take good care of him and his status would be high in the future. After the young sect master took over the position of sect master, Qin Liang would at least be able to become an elder. As the saying goes, when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs will follow. As long as he could obtain benefits, it did not matter whether he was a chicken or a dog. Qin Liang, big brother Liang, let me go this time. I will definitely not appear. I know what you want to do. I, Tian Fei, will completely disappear from this day onwards. Given your current status and strength, killing me will be as easy as flipping your hand. Just let me go like a fart. Tian Fei knelt down before Qin Liang as he pleaded. Now that his Yuan Pearl was shattered, he was already a cripple. Qin Liang was also a grade 1 Yuan monarch. It would be extremely difficult for him to escape from Qin Liang's clutches. In fact, this was something that was simply impossible. Therefore, he knelt before Qin Liang, hoping to find a chance to survive. As long as he could survive, Tian Fei was willing to do anything. Seeing Tian Fei kneel, Tian Fei used to be a high and mighty genius. Now, he was kneeling in front of him like an ant. When he saw this scene, his heart felt extremely sour. At this moment, Qin Liang's heart was also filled with a hearty feeling. Tian Fei, oh Tian Fei, I didn't expect you to have such a day. With your talent, it wouldn't be difficult for you to surpass the young sect master. However, In order to please the young sect master, you tried your best to suppress your cultivation so that you wouldn't surpass the young sect master's realm. I know all these, but so what now? In the end, you still have to kneel in front of me. When Tian Fei heard Qin Liang's mockery, his kneeling body trembled slightly. Indeed, what Tian Fei said was true. His talent was above Gong Changhe's. Moreover, with his aptitude, it would be extremely easy for him to break through. However, Tian Fei chose to conceal his strength in order to save face for the junior sect master. Moreover, he forcefully suppressed his talent and didn't allow himself to break through. Such a great humiliation and forbearance had now turned into nothingness. If he was careless today, he would have completely lost his life. With your talent, think about it carefully. How can I let you go? However, you can rest assured that I won't let you feel the slightest bit of pain. Consider it a repayment for the care you have given me for so long. As Qin Liang spoke, he slowly pulled out the long sword in his hand. The sharp light was so dazzling that Tian Fei's face instantly turned pale. He never expected that this would happen. Qin Liang was actually so ruthless. He didn't care about the past. Qin Liang, Tian Fei, will never let you go even if I become a ghost. Tian Fei roared loudly at Qin Liang. At this moment, Qin Liang slashed the sword in his hand towards Tian Fei's head. This slash didn't require any yuan power. Killing Tian Fei was as easy as killing a chicken or a dog. Clang! Tian Fei straightened his body, but the expected pain didn't come. Tian Fei couldn't believe it. Could it really be like what Qin Liang said? There wasn't any pain. When Tian Fei opened his eyes, he saw that the sword in Qin Liang's hand had been deflected away without him noticing. I don't understand. When you kill, do you like to talk a lot of nonsense? Li Zongjiu casually threw the broken sword in Qin Liang's hand to the ground. Just now, Li Zongjiu had witnessed the annual drama of betrayal and internal strife. However, killing a person was just killing a person. Why did they have to talk so much nonsense? So, Li Zongjiu couldn't stand it anymore. Therefore, he personally showed up and broke the sword in Qin Liang's hand. As the dignified evil lord of this generation, he naturally wanted to make this matter more dramatic. Otherwise, why would this world be filled with so many wonderful things for no reason? You! It's you! Qin Liang saw Li Zongjiu in front of him and immediately shouted. This great demon had actually chased after him. Immediately, Qin Liang let out a strange cry and fled into the distance. He had fought with Li Zongjiu before, so he naturally knew how terrifying Li Zongjiu's strength was. Furthermore, Elder Xiao Yuan's arm had been broken by Li Zongjiu's sneak attack. Therefore, when he saw Li Zongjiu appear, he immediately turned and fled. Could it be that this guy had appeared to invite him to a meal? Of course, he was here to take his life. What a coward! Li Zongjiu threw the desolate heaven essence in his hand. So. Ping! The desolate heaven essence slammed into Qin Liang's back, sending him flying as if he had been hit by a mountain in the vast wilderness. Pfft! He spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, Qin Liang rolled on the ground. He felt an intense pain in his abdomen. Qin Liang could not believe it. When he circulated his yuan power, he immediately discovered something that made him almost collapse. His yuan pearl had shattered. No! Qin Liang roared at the sky. This roar of pain was filled with fear and sorrow. In just a split second, Li Zongjiu had crippled his 20 years of cultivation. The yuan power of his Yuan King realm. The yuan power that was enough for him to become an elder of the mystic Yuan sect and become the pinnacle expert of this continent had vanished in a puff of smoke. At this moment, Qin Liang felt a true heart-wrenching pain. Now that he's the same as you, what will you do? Li Zongjiu looked at Tian Fei, who had a look of realization on his face, and said slowly. Tian Fei had been completely blinded just now. He had thought that he was about to face death. However, Li Zhongzhou's appearance had delayed his death. Now, he actually saw that Qin Liang, who had wanted to kill him earlier, had also had his yuan bead destroyed. This caused that person, who was high above and could easily decide his life, to fall into this bottomless abyss. People could not help but marvel at the speed at which the wheel of fortune had turned. Tian Fei's gaze was calm. He knew what Li Zhongzhou wanted. Since that was the case, he would fulfill Li Zhongzhou's wish. Tian Fei immediately stood up, picked up a stone beside him, and slowly walked towards Qin Liang. Tian Fei, what are you trying to do? Qin Liang looked at Tian Fei, who was walking over, and saw the stone in Tian Fei's hand. He immediately shouted. However, Tian Fei did not speak as much nonsense as before. He raised the stone in his hand and smashed it towards Qin Liang's head. Ping! 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 Every time the stone smashed down, terrifying blood would splatter everywhere. Seeing this scene, Tian Fei did not waver at all. Instead, he continued to use the stone in his hand to smash downwards. Until now, Qin Liang's head had already been smashed into a pulp. Qin Liang's body fell into a pool of blood, twitching non-stop. Tian Fei did not hesitate to break the finger on Qin Liang's storage ring and took off the storage ring. This is his storage ring. Kill me. Tian Fei handed Qin Liang's storage ring to Li Zhongzhou and said magnanimously. At this moment, he was already satisfied to be able to smash this despicable person to death before he died. Therefore, he did not ask for more. However, it was hateful that he could not avenge Gong Changhe. Chapter 700. Being able to kill Qin Liang with his own hands before his death was already considered as fulfilling one of Tian Fei's wishes. Is your talent better than Gong Changhe's? Li Zhongzhou looked at Tian Fei and asked. Tian Fei smiled bitterly when he heard Li Zhongzhou's words. Tian Fei was just a person who wanted to cultivate, become an expert, and control his own fate. He only had such thoughts in his heart. Who would have thought that he would reach such a level and become Gong Changhe's pawn? Li Zhongzhou's eyes were filled with bitterness. If he did not do so, Tian Fei's fate could be imagined. Therefore, Tian Fei had no choice but to compromise. He did not expect that he would end up like this. So what if I'm better than him? Now that my elemental pearl is broken, I'm completely a cripple. Tian Fei said bitterly. His face was ashen. Previously, he might have been blessed with a glimmer of hope, but now, anyone could easily kill him. With such a fate, it was difficult for Tian Fei to stand up again. This elixir is enough to restore your elemental pearl. Swallow it. As for your future, it's up to you. Li Zhongzhou said indifferently. He casually threw out an elixir. When the Shadow Fox's elemental pearl was broken, Li Zhongzhou had already thought that these people did not know how to protect their elemental pearls. Moreover, in this battle, it was extremely easy to damage their elemental pearls. Basically, these people's elemental pearls were in an unstable state. How could they stabilize their elemental pearls? Therefore, Li Zhongzhou took some time to refine an elixir. This elixir's recipe had not been written yet, but in fact, this elixir's recipe to restore elemental pearls would appear out of nowhere 2,500 years later. It was said that it was directly obtained from the Genius Tower. Therefore, when this elixir's recipe appeared, it set off a lot of bloodshed. In the end, it was naturally obtained by Li Zhongzhou. Moreover, the grade of this elixir was not very high. It was just a 5th grade elixir. Refining it was not a difficult task. Li Zhongzhou refined a few more and gave them to Yinghu, Taifai, and the others. The effect of this pill was quite good. Tian Fei took the pill. Looking at Li Zhongzhou's back as he turned and left, his eyes suddenly widened. Although his cultivation was now crippled, looking at the pill in his hand, it was definitely not a low-grade pill. What is this guy trying to do? Is he trying to poison me to death? Tian Fei thought to himself. However, no matter how he looked at it, the pill in his hand did not look like a poisonous pill. It was a real spiritual pill. But what kind of medicinal pill could restore the origin pearl? Tian Fei had never heard of such a pill before. If there was one, Tian Fei would buy it even if he had to sell his entire fortune. Even if this pill could restore the origin pearl, it should not be given to him by someone who broke his origin pearl. No matter how hard Tian Fei thought about Li Zongjiu's code of conduct, he could not figure it out. He could not understand why Li Zongjiu would do such a thing. But for Tian Fei, he had nothing to lose now. In that case, there is still a little hope. If I, Tian Fei, don't die today, I will definitely fight the Shenyuan sect to the death in the future. Tian Fei immediately swallowed the elixir. Those people from the Shenyuan sect were arrogant and confident. Since they had already sent Qin Liang, they would definitely not send a second person. Therefore, Tian Fei was considered safe for the time being. The pill entered his stomach. Tian Fei immediately felt that the intestines and internal organs in his stomach were all twisted together. The intensity of the pain was thousands or even tens of thousands of times greater than when his yuan bead was shattered. Tian Fei immediately rolled around on the ground in pain. At this moment, Tian Fei was already in a delirious state. After an hour, Tian Fei, who had fainted on the ground, suddenly got up. His eyes emitted a ferocious light. Looking at his palms, there was a trace of disbelief and extreme shock in his eyes. Oh my God! My origin pearl! My origin pearl is back! Tian Fei could not believe it. But the abundant origin energy in his body was still there. Tian Fei's heart was filled with joy once again. Shenyuan sect. Gong Changhe. If I, Tian Fei, don't die today, I will definitely fight you to the death. Tian Fei roared towards the sky. Tian Fei was only missing a finger on his right palm. He, Tian Fei, would get this finger back sooner or later. After this incident, Tian Fei understood that if he wanted to survive, he had to be strong first. It was impossible to become a true expert by relying on others' help. He had to rely on his own efforts to become a true expert. Even if there were difficulties, he had to work hard to overcome them. Only in this way could he grow. Li Zongjiu did not give him the pill to save him. Instead, he wanted to create another enemy for the Shenyuan sect. He wanted Tian Fei to become a thorn in the heart of the Shenyuan sect. Tian Fei searched the ground and finally found the storage ring that Li Zongjiu did not take away. It belonged to Qin Liang. He opened the storage ring. Although Qin Liang's collection was not as rich as Tian Fei's, at least there were many things in it. Each and every one of you, just you wait. At this moment, Tian Fei's yuan pearl had just recovered and he still needed some time to recover. If he used too much yuan power, it would be very easy for him to damage the newly recovered yuan pearl. He needed to stabilize it and take it slow. Therefore, Tian Fei chose to move forward on foot. Li Zongjiu. I have to rely on him. Otherwise, it won't be long before the Shenyuan sect finds me. Tian Fei had already made up his mind. Li Zongjiu was powerful and mysterious. Tian Fei admired him. Although it was no different from entering the tiger's den again, he had to get Li Zongjiu's protection if he wanted to take revenge. Perhaps he would die faster. But there was also a chance that he could survive. This was because Tian Fei knew that Li Zongjiu's strength was terrifying. Moreover, both of their enemies were the Shenyuan sect. Only by working together could they have a better chance of fighting the Shenyuan sect. After returning to the city, Li Zongjiu went to the bun shop as usual. He wanted to sit down and have a meal. However, he saw Xiao Zhao walking in a hurry. Her face was gloomy as she walked past him. From the looks of it, it seemed that something had happened. Isn't that Xiao Zhao? Chapter 701. Li Zongjiu didn't think much and stepped forward to catch up with Xiao Zhao. Xiao Zhao turned left and right and came to a house. Two burly men could be seen standing guard at the entrance of the house. When they saw Xiao Zhao return, the two burly men revealed smiles on their faces. Lord Xiao Zhao is back. Come in, please. However, Xiao Zhao didn't look very happy. Instead, he was expressionless. What do you want? Where's my brother? Xiao Zhao said coldly. They're all inside. Your whole family is also inside. They're just waiting for you. Although there was some distance between them, Li Zongjiu could hear the conversation between the three people clearly. When Xiao Zhao walked into the house, there were at least 20 or 30 strong men standing in the courtyard. In the middle of the courtyard, a young man was kneeling on the ground. His body was tied up and his face was blue and purple. Obviously, he had been beaten up before. A middle-aged couple on the side didn't know what was going on in front of them. They were scared out of their wits. The two of them were just ordinary people in the city. Usually, they made some pearl hair clips and did business on the street. However, when they opened their stall today, their stall was directly smashed by a group of people. Then, they were directly taken back to their house by a group of people. A fat man was sitting on a shabby rattan chair. He was holding a beggar's chicken in his hand and was wolfing it down. Next to the chair was a sky stone hammer. This stone hammer light was already awe-inspiring. When it was discussed, it would be even more frightening. Just looking at it was enough to make one feel fear. Xiao Zhao looked at the situation in front of him and didn't have the slightest fear. Hey, isn't this Lord Xiao Zhao? Why are you fools still standing there? Hurry up and bring a chair for Miss Xiao Zhao to sit down. The fat and brainless man immediately shouted for a beating. He glared angrily at the group of trash around him. They only knew how to stand there and stare. Don't bother. I've brought the money. Let my brother go. Take the money and get out of here. Xiao Zhao, who had always been gentle, was now very serious. When he looked at these people, his eyes were extremely fierce and hateful. Hee, don't worry, don't worry. How much money did you bring? The fat man said with a smile. 300,000 gold coins. Xiao Zhao pulled out a stack of bank notes from his cuff. Xiao Zhao had to scrape together all this money to gather a total of 300,000 gold coins. To some people, this amount of money might be less than the meat of an ant. However, to an ordinary family like Xiao Zhao, this amount of money required a lot of effort. Moreover, it was not guaranteed that she would be able to gather this much money. 300,000. That's too little. 300,000 was last week's price. The day before yesterday, your brother lost 500,000 in my casino. Adding the 300,000 interest from before, your brother owes me a total of 1,200,000. The fat man looked like a tiger, but he was very shrewd when it came to calculating. When he said this, Xiao Zhao's eyes widened. He never thought that these people would be so excessive. Don't talk nonsense. My brother didn't gamble a single cent. Today, I'll leave the 300,000 here. Whether you want it or not, get out of here. Otherwise, I won't be polite. Xiao Zhao said angrily. These people didn't know when they started pestering his brother. In fact, Xiao Zhao knew that these people were clearly targeting the young lady. Now, they wanted him to steal the young lady's account book and next year's plan. Although he didn't know who was behind these people. Xiao Zhao would rather die than betray the young lady. TSK, TSK, TSK. Miss Xiao Zhao has been in the 7-star fire room for a long time and has interacted with many big shots. She doesn't know how barbarians like us collect debts. Come, let's see how barbaric Miss Xiao Zhao is. The fat man immediately waved his hand, and two figures walked out. They walked towards Xiao Zhao's hand. "What do you want?" When Xiao Zhao saw the two of them walking up, she immediately let out a cry. He didn't expect these people to really dare to make a move. The two people directly pounced on Xiao Zhao. Xiao Zhao turned around and wanted to escape, but the few big men blocked his way. "Come here, you stinking girl. Do you really think you're high and mighty?" A big man approached and directly came in front of Xiao Zhao. Then, he grabbed Xiao Zhao's white and tender throat. However, before he could touch Xiao Zhao, he heard the crisp sound of his own bones. Crack! The hand that reached out was directly flipped over at a 90-degree angle. The 5 fingers suddenly lost contact with each other and just hung on the palm. "Ah! You're courting death. Fuck!" When the other person saw the miserable state of his companion and saw that another person had suddenly appeared beside Xiao Zhao, he immediately let out a low roar and flew up, kicking out with his leg. Bang! An invisible force blasted his thigh and directly made the big man kneel on the ground with a bang. His broken thigh seemed to have fallen to the ground. It was really frightening to look at. What kind of pain would a broken bone of this degree have to endure? Xiao Zhao did not expect such a situation to occur. When he looked around, a familiar face appeared in front of Xiao Zhao. "Young Master Li!" Xiao Zhao exclaimed in surprise. The person who came was Li Zongjiu. When he saw that these people were about to make a move, Li Zongjiu could no longer sit still. In any case, Xiao Zhao was one of his friends. How could these people casually hurt him? "Who are you? How dare you mess with me, Sang Biao?" The big fat man immediately stood up. At this moment, the thugs beside him also gathered and surrounded Li Zongjiu and the rest. Their futures were raging and it seemed as though they would tear the people in front of them to shreds in the next second. When he saw the miserable state of his 2 brothers, the one called Sang Biao could not help but feel a little nervous. The people who came seemed to be quite powerful. "I'll give you all 1 minute to scram." Li Zongjiu patted Xiao Zhao's shoulder, indicating for the latter to relax. Then, he walked out with his hands behind his back and looked at the people in front of him as he said in an extremely benevolent manner. As a manifestation of his benevolence, he gave these people enough time to leave. If they did not know how to cherish the time, they could not blame Li Zongjiu for being vicious. "Oh my, I didn't expect such a stubborn lover to show up. Go, kill this kid. Whoever takes his head will be rewarded with 5,000 gold yuan." Chapter 702. Generous rewards would definitely attract brave men. With Sang Biao's words, the crowd below instantly erupted in excitement. In an instant, all of them pounced towards Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu's body did not move. With just a thought, his mental energy whizzed out. Boom! Li Zongjiu's mental energy immediately transformed into a terrifying long whip and spread out in all directions. Pa pa pa! All of them were easily sent flying. When he saw Li Zongjiu's incomparably mysterious technique, Sang Biao was completely stunned. What the fuck? What the fuck? However, Sang Biao was a ruthless person. He immediately raised the stone hammer in his hand and violently swung it towards Li Zongjiu. Then, he turned around and climbed towards the wall at the side. Evidently, he wanted to escape. Li Zongjiu gently gestured with his palm, causing the stone hammer to change its direction and head towards Sang Biao, who had already climbed up the wall. With a bang, Sang Biao was directly knocked down from the wall. After all, Li Zongjiu was much more peaceful now. Therefore, when he attacked, he did not kill anyone. Those who had recovered from the ground and crawled up quickly fled into the distance. Without a doubt, this Li Zongjiu was clearly a legendary elite. He could easily crush them to death with just a flick of his finger. The 2 of you stay behind. The courtyard was not big to begin with. With so many people, it was a little crowded. Li Zongjiu let most of the people leave and then chose 2 people to stay behind. The 2 of them instantly looked aggrieved. They thought that Li Zongjiu was not satisfied with the fight just now and wanted to kill 1 or 2 of them to sacrifice to the heavens. On the spot, their faces collapsed. When they looked at Li Zongjiu, their faces were also filled with grievances. Great hero, please spare our lives, tie that fatty up. Li Zongjiu pointed at the unconscious Sang Biao. Then, with a wave of his hand, an invisible energy surged and cut the rope on Xiao Zhao's brother. Brother, are you alright? Xiao Zhao also hurriedly went forward to help her brother up. His parents also gathered around. They were held hostage just now and did not know what to do. If they were not as strong as the other party, then they could only resign themselves to fate. Fortunately, Li Zongjiu was here today and saved Xiao Zhao's family. Logically speaking, this Xiao Zhao was Song Jieyu's right-hand man. These little punks only needed to talk to Song Jieyu, and naturally, there would be someone to deal with them. He didn't know what this Xiao Zhao was thinking. The 2 burly men finally found a rope and tied Sang Biao up. Following Li Zongjiu's instructions, a basin of water was splashed onto Sang Biao's face. He woke Sang Biao up. How can you be called Sang Biao when you look like this? Li Zongjiu looked at Sang Biao's round body. What was wrong with this world? Sang Biao had just woken up and did not understand what was going on. Father, mother, brother, this is Li Zongjiu, young Master Li, whom I told you about. Xiao Zhao introduced. Xiao Zhao's parents were about to kneel down and thank Li Zongjiu for saving their lives. Li Zongjiu gestured with his hands and lifted the 2 of them up. No need to be so courteous. In the future, if something like this happens, you can just go to Boyu Casino and look for Taifai. Just tell him that I asked you to come. Li Zongjiu waved his hand and said. With Taifai's strength, it was naturally easy for him to deal with these people. How can I trouble Sir Tai for such a vulgar matter, Xiao Zhao said with shame. He did not expect that such a matter would disturb someone like Li Zongjiu. According to the young mistress, Li Zongjiu's status had already risen to the same level as the Song family head. Hence, how could Xiao Zhao dare to trouble Li Zongjiu's subordinates with such a matter? You don't have to say such nonsense. Li Zongjiu waved his hand. You, damn fatty, I'll give you a chance. Tell me the mastermind behind this and bring me to him. Then, I'll let you go. Li Zongjiu said. Sang Biao heard this and was instantly energized. When Sang Biao woke up, he realized that he had been tied up. It had always been him, Sang Biao, who tied people up. Since when was it anyone else's turn to tie him up? A warrior would rather be killed than humiliated. On the spot, Sang Biao stared deadly at Li Zongjiu. Kid, don't think that you can do whatever you want in Royal City just because you have some skills. If you dare to touch me, Sang Biao, I'll call a few hundred of my brothers to chop you to death. Sang Biao roared. His aura sounded real. If not for the fact that this guy was tied up, one would think that Sang Biao was invincible. Slap. Li Zongjiu slapped Sang Biao's face across the air. Instantly, Sang Biao's face flushed red. Because his face was fat to begin with, he did not react to the slap at all. The only thing that could be seen was that his face was slightly swollen. How dare you hit me? How dare you fucking hit me? Sang Biao used to be an extremely ruthless person. Later on, because of his ruthlessness, he became the boss. Then, he no longer needed to fight and his living conditions improved. Hence, he gradually grew into his current chubby appearance. However, his ferocious character was getting more and more arrogant by the day. Slap. Another slap landed directly on Sang Biao's face. This time around, a tooth flew out. Most importantly, this slap landed on the same spot. Sang Biao's heart was in so much pain. If you still refuse to speak, I'll have no choice but to kill you. Li Zhongjiu did not have much patience. Immediately, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the stone hammer across the air. In Sang Biao's eyes, this ability to grab things across the air was way too amazing. Speaking of experts, Sang Biao had seen his fair share of them. However, looking at Li Zhongjiu's various methods, he knew that they were not as simple as they seemed. If he continued to endure, then the one who would die would be him. Don't. Sir, I was wrong. I'll speak. Li Zhongjiu had yet to hammer down and Sang Biao was already begging for mercy. He was just short of kneeling on the ground and kowtowing to Li Zhongjiu to admit his mistake. It's the crocodile gang. It's the leader of the crocodile gang who told us to do this. Our casino is also under the control of the crocodile gang. As for the other things, I really don't know. Sang Biao closed his eyes and shouted loudly. He was afraid that the hammer would land on his head. If that happened, wouldn't his head be as big as a watermelon? Crocodile gang. Li Zhongjiu controlled the stone hammer and with a bang, it landed on Sang Biao's feet. Sang Biao immediately burst into tears. Previously, Li Zhongjiu had never heard of the crocodile gang. There was the Green Dragon gang, but the Green Dragon gang had already been wiped out by Li Zhongjiu. Where did this crocodile gang come from? They were causing trouble here, and even did such illegal things. If Li Zhongjiu saw them, he would definitely teach them a lesson. I'll leave the matters of these gangs to Taifai. Li Zhongjiu didn't have that much time. In the past, he didn't have any subordinates, so he had to do everything himself. But now, it was different. Li Zhongjiu immediately used the 1,000-mile sound transmission. This 1,000-mile sound transmission was a yuan qi item that could communicate across space. However, the range was quite limited. Li Zhongjiu glanced at it. Coincidentally, Taifai wasn't too far away. The 1,000-mile sound transmission quickly conveyed Li Zhongjiu's words. At this moment, Taifai was having a headache calculating the accounts. Suddenly, he heard Li Zhongjiu calling for him. Li Zhongjiu also asked him to bring more people to deal with the matter. He immediately tensed up. Bring more people. How many people do you want? Taifai frowned. Then, he immediately issued an order for the people nearby to rush to the location that Li Zhongjiu had mentioned. As for the number of people, there were at least 1,000. The main experts were also brought over from Boyu Casino. Coincidentally, the casino wasn't open during the day. Instantly, this large group of people rushed to Li Zhongjiu's location. Chapter 703. Brat, so what if you know? Do you dare to touch the crocodile gang? This is between us and them. It has nothing to do with you. If you let us go now. Slap. Li Zhongjiu slapped him in the face, and he finally calmed down a little. At this moment, Xiao Zhao also lifted his skirt and went forward. Young Master Li, the crocodile gang is big, and there are people behind them. I will report this matter to Mississippi. Why don't young Master Li leave first? Xiao Zhao was also worried that Li Zhongjiu would be implicated. Although he knew that Li Zhongjiu was powerful, so powerful that even Han Wuxia had to kneel down before him, these people were after all people of the Jianghu. If they fought, it would be a life-and-death battle. He couldn't let his guard down. He must be careful. What's more, this was Xiao Zhao's family matter. How could he let Li Zhongjiu take the blame for this matter? This made Xiao Zhao feel even more apologetic in her heart. It's okay, just wait for a while. It took less than 10 minutes. Someone had already arrived in front of Li Zhongjiu. Young Master. Li Zhongjiu didn't know these people, but Taifai did a good job of popularizing people. Everyone knew Li Zhongjiu and knew who their real boss was. Young Master. We're late. After waiting for a while, Taifai also quickly arrived with his men. Up until now, the people that Tai Feihe had brought had already filled up several streets in the surrounding area. Those who were able to enter this small courtyard and meet Li Zongjiu were all people with some status. The rest of the underlings could only wait outside. These people were very unique when they waited. They all had their own matters to attend to and looked no different from people who were just strolling around. The Holy Flame Royal City abhorred violence to the core. If anyone were to use force in the city, or if there were any violent incidents, they would be treated with great importance. No one would be able to escape. At the very least, they would have to pay some compensation. That was why these people had such a disguise, which was extremely convenient and fast. You're here. This guy's boss is from the Crocodile Gang. He wants to deal with my friend. Do as you see fit. Li Zongjiu pointed at the trussed-up Sang Biao. At this moment, there were two other people who were squatting beside Sang Biao in jealousy and grievance. The scene before them was enough to scare them silly. They weren't familiar with Taifai, but the 5 people behind Taifai were the street bullies of the nearby 5 streets. The whole street was under their care, and all the shops could open smoothly. The punks from outside couldn't get a word in here. Now, these 5 bosses were standing respectfully behind Taifai. As for that Taifai, he was extremely humble in front of Li Zongjiu. This was the most shocking part. Just which family did this Li Zongjiu belong to? He actually had such power. One must know that Sang Biao's position was at most one of the leaders under the 5 big shots. Any one of these 5 bosses could be compared to the Crocodile Gang's leader. You guys have some guts. How dare you cause trouble in my, Taifai's, territory? Taifai said coldly as he came in front of Sang Biao and the other 2. Taifai. When the 3 of them heard Taifai's name, their eyes widened. It was as though they had seen a dead person come back to life. It was the kind of shock that belonged to them. It really was Taifai. Currently, in this Holy Flame Royal City, as long as one was in the underworld, who did not know of this Taifei's name. This Taifai could be said to have used ruthless means to unify all the underground forces and become part of the Sacred Flame Royal City's underground world. Taifai basically monopolized half of it. There was no one who could go against him. Moreover, Taifai was also very smart. He didn't directly take down the other half. Instead, he chased all the mixed forces of the tribes into the remaining half. Once someone wanted to rule over this half, Taifai would naturally jump out and stop this peaceful and stable situation. It could be said that the underground forces were basically under the control of Taifai. It was not easy for a person to be able to reach this level and live until now. People like Sang Biao were basically local hooligans. When would they have the chance to meet Taifai? You are Taifai. The 3 of them were already stuttering to the point that they couldn't speak. Take them away. The 2 of you, bring the leader of the Crocodile Gang to me. Taifai pointed at the 2 of them. These 2 people were in charge of the streets that often dealt with the Crocodile Gang. Therefore, they were naturally familiar with the situation of the Crocodile Gang. At this moment, after receiving the order, they immediately cupped their hands and left. If you have any problems in the future, just tell him directly. This is my friend, Xiao Zhao. Li Zongjiu said to Taifai. Taifai immediately bowed to Xiao Zhao. If Miss Xiao Zhao has any problems, just let me know. Taifai said, Lord Tai, I can't accept this. Xiao Zhao quickly said. She was just an assistant by Song Jieyu's side. How could she accept Taifai's bow? Such politeness naturally made Xiao Zhao unable to accept it. She quickly helped Taifai up. Then I'll take my leave first. This matter must be handled properly. Li Zongjiu said to Taifai. Taifai naturally patted his chest and promised that he would definitely find the real culprit behind this matter. This kind of matter could not be easily covered up. Even Li Zongjiu personally came forward. Naturally, this matter must be resolved thoroughly. When Li Zongjiu came out, those who were originally idle also bowed to Li Zongjiu. Those who did not know would have thought that Emperor Xingyan was out in disguise. In order to avoid more disturbances and sensations, Li Zongjiu's figure flashed and disappeared from the street. Many people were fortunate enough to see the true face of their young master. They felt that it was an extremely fortunate thing. As for those who did not see it, they could only feel annoyed. Their young master was truly a legendary figure. As for how legendary he was, that was something only he himself knew. In the city, at the Four Seas Inn. This inn was prominent and famous in the Jianghu. It had once received many extremely famous chivalrous people in the Jianghu. At this moment, a few people walked into the inn. One of them was an old man who only had one arm, which attracted a lot of attention. When the diners in the lobby saw them, they put down their chopsticks. From the aura of these people, it seemed that they were not to be trifled with. "Sirs, please come upstairs. Please come upstairs." When the shopkeeper of the Four Seas Inn saw them, he immediately invited them upstairs. Chapter 704. Those who came to the Four Seas Inn were Xiao Yuan and the others from the Shenyuan sect. After leaving the Mirror Moon Villa, the group of people arrived at the city. The kill order has already been issued. Li Zongjiu killed my sect's disciple, Tian Fei. Just this reason alone is enough for Li Zongjiu to die a tragic death. Oh right, why hasn't Qin Liang come back yet? How long has it been? Gong Changhe couldn't help but have a bad premonition. Could there have been some kind of accident? Tian Fei's death was the only way to go about his plan. Otherwise, everything would have been in vain. If the fact that Qin Liang went to kill Tian Fei was exposed, it might affect Gong Changhe. However, Gong Changhe didn't care about this. Even if they were exposed, it would have nothing to do with Gong Changhe. Everything would be due to Qin Liang's own initiative. He could even say that Qin Liang was blinded by greed. When the time came, he could just kill Qin Liang. The only thing he was worried about was that Tian Fei would escape, and the crime that could kill Li Zongjiu would be gone. This was what Gong Changhe was worried about. Don't worry. With Qin Liang's understanding of Tian Fei, there won't be a problem. A disciple said. The relationship between the two of them was pretty good. However, it was unexpected that Qin Liang was the first one who wanted to kill Tian Fei. Therefore, these brothers who seemed to be on good terms with each other were only on good terms with each other now. If you suddenly lost your power, what awaited you would be endless and the most thorough way to kick you when you are down. Go and find out who Li Zongjiu is. Elder Xiao Yuan said. A disciple immediately stood up and replied. This disciple was responsible for collecting information on normal days. He naturally had his own way of collecting information. Li Zongjiu. You want to find trouble with Li Zongjiu? I can help you. The door of Xiao Yuan's room was suddenly pushed open by someone. Seeing someone walk in, everyone in the room became nervous. He stared at the newcomer with a murderous look in his eyes. Could it be that Li Zongjiu was so powerful in the city that Li Zongjiu's men could be seen everywhere he went? The ninth Prince Xian Ming walked in, followed by Han Shuang and Han Shui. His expression was ice-cold, but there was a different kind of charm to it. It caused one's heart to be involuntarily moved when looking at him. Gong Changhe's eyes first fell on the two maids, but he hid his gaze very well and didn't reveal it in front of the crowd. You are. Elder Xiao Yuan said. The newcomer had an untamed temperament. Moreover, there was a strong innate feeling that caused Elder Xiao Yuan to raise his eyebrows. This person's identity was definitely extraordinary. I am Xian Ming. The ninth prince said slowly. As soon as they heard this name, Xiao Yuan and the others instantly came to an understanding. They widened their eyes and looked at the man in front of them. They didn't expect him to be the ninth prince of the Shengyan dynasty, His Highness Xian Ming. The reason why the Xianyuan sect came in person was because of the royal family behind Princess Jingan. Once the Xianyuan sect and the Shengyan dynasty had a marriage alliance, the situation would be like the sun in the sky. It was just that it wasn't so easy for him to succeed. Therefore, they needed this opportunity. The opportunity was Master Jingyue. If Master Jingyue was the one to speak, the success rate would obviously be higher. The Xianyuan sect might not be on the same level as the Shengyan dynasty. Now, the ninth prince took the initiative to come to them for cooperation. If it was before, the Xianyuan sect and the others might have considered it. After all, the status of a prince and a princess was different. If the prince got involved, there might be some problems when competing for the throne in the future. If they stood on the wrong side, it would have a great impact on them. Therefore, it was necessary to assess the situation carefully. However, it was different now. Originally, Xiao Yuan and the others hated Li Zongjiu to the core. As long as they could kill Li Zongjiu at any cost, it would be worth it for them. So it's His Highness Xian Ming. Please come in. It's fate for us to meet here. Xiao Yuan's face immediately revealed a smile. After all, he was the principal elder. He had a lot of experience in dealing with these people. It was necessary to use such means to deal with them. Regardless of whether they would cooperate or not, they couldn't afford to offend them. The Xianyuan sect wants to deal with Li Zongjiu. Do you have any conflicts with Li Zongjiu? The ninth prince said. The faces of Xian Yuan Zong and the rest changed. At first, they thought that Peng Qiao was the only one who had encountered the ninth prince. But now, it seemed like the ninth prince had come knocking on their door directly. It seemed like the ninth prince had already investigated their background thoroughly. Xiao Yuan and the others thought about it carefully and didn't think much of it. After all, this was the Sacred Flame Royal City. In addition, although they kept a low profile this time, they did not hide anything. Therefore, some of the movements when they came were seen by some forces. The smiles on the faces of Xiao Yuan and the others gradually faded. Then, Xiao Yuan's eyes were filled with righteous indignation. His eyes were filled with anger and resentment towards Li Zongjiu. It seemed like he hated Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu plotted to kill our sect's disciples. If we don't kill him, where will the dignity of our Xianyuan sect go? An indescribable rage and grief immediately surfaced on the faces of Xiao Yuan and the rest. To them, this was a great humiliation and they had to use Li Zongjiu's blood to wash away this humiliation. Li Zongjiu dared to kill your Xianyuan sect's disciples. The ninth prince had never expected Li Zongjiu to be so bold. This was great news for the ninth prince. Of course, he couldn't show it on the surface. Otherwise, it would be too much. At the same time, the ninth prince's face was also filled with grief. Li Zongjiu is so arrogant and despotic. He must have someone backing him. Now that I've found out that Li Zongjiu's family is in Wuxia city, we must first control Li Zongjiu's family if we want to kill such a demon. The ninth prince said slowly and then looked at Xiao Yuan. As a righteous sect, our mystic Yuan sect will definitely not do something like exterminating the entire sect. Xiao Yuan said in a deep voice. However, the ninth prince's expression didn't change much. He seemed to be waiting for Xiao Yuan to continue. However, our Xianyuan sect has the obligation to eliminate the demon sect that such a demon belongs to. Chapter 705. During his cultivation, Li Zongjiu also discovered that using the power of the desolate heaven essence to temper his body was a pretty good cultivation method. He had yet to make any progress with the ancient golden tyrant body technique. Furthermore, the desolate heaven essence could also temper his mental strength to a certain extent. With this discovery, Li Zongjiu's cultivation speed increased by leaps and bounds. Li Zongjiu used his mind to control the desolate heaven essence to hammer his body. Boom! The power of the desolate heaven essence had existed since ancient times. All of a sudden, it smashed into Li Zongjiu's body, causing a terrifying force to surge into his body. Boom! If the power in Li Zongjiu's body was like a mountain, then this strike would have directly smashed Li Zongjiu's body into smithereens. Pwah! Even Li Zongjiu could not hold back and spat out a mouthful of blood. He never expected that Li Zongjiu, who had not bled for a long time, would actually spit out blood from his attack. Ah, no, this power is too strong. Li Zongjiu took a long time to slowly get up by supporting himself against the wall. This strike had nearly shattered his body. Although the effect was not bad, the power was too great. If he was not careful, Li Zongjiu's body would have been smashed to smithereens. How could Li Zongjiu dare to take such a risk? It could even be said that if he was careless and made a mistake, Li Zongjiu's life could be taken. He still had no way of controlling the desolate heaven essence, so he would have to wait until he could control it. Immediately, Li Zongjiu put away the desolate heaven essence. It was no wonder that the strike from before was able to shatter a person's yuan bead. According to this logic, the yuan bead's hardness should be even tougher than any other part of one's body. Even if one's body was crippled by this rod, one's yuan bead should still be as tough as ever. However, after personally experiencing the power of the desolate heaven essence, Li Zongjiu also understood why it was able to destroy the yuan beads of others. The stronger your body is, the stronger the power of the desolate heaven essence will be. That was why Li Zongjiu's stick had such a terrifying effect when it hit his body. Young master, are you all right? Why do I hear you vomiting blood? Yinghu came to Li Zongjiu's practice room and knocked on the door. Ever since Yinghu broke through, he had become even more elusive in this courtyard. Originally, Yinghu's qinggong was not bad. Now that he was a Yuan monarch, coupled with the doppelganger technique taught by Li Zongjiu, Yinghu's strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Ahem, I'm fine. Li Zongjiu stood up. How could he embarrass himself in front of his subordinates? Li Zongjiu had never embarrassed himself in front of an outsider before. Young master, there's someone called Tian Fei outside. He says he wants to seek refuge with you. Should I let him in? Yinghu shouted from outside the door. Tian Fei. Li Zongjiu recalled the kid whose yuan bead had been shattered. Hadn't he already given this kid a way out? He had been waiting for this kid to go into hibernation and grow into a great demon king so that this kid could deal with the mystic Yuan sect. Why had he come to his place? Li Zongjiu's actions of letting a tiger return to the mountains was foolish. In fact, he was the foolish one. Such a person was not qualified to be called a tiger in front of Li Zongjiu. He was at most a fly, or at least a little bigger than a mosquito. Therefore, it could be said that Li Zongjiu didn't care at all. He just wanted to make this world a little more exciting and interesting. Tian Fei was thrown here because his talent was destroyed. He was even abandoned in the end. They wanted to use Tian Fei's death in exchange for a legitimate reason to issue a kill order to kill Li Zongjiu. Tian Fei would naturally choose to explode after being treated like this. No one would be willing to endure such humiliation. Moreover, Tian Fei was already a dead man. The mystic Yuan sect would not let Tian Fei continue to live. Once the junior sect leader knew that Tian Fei was still alive, he would use even more cruel and ruthless means to kill Tian Fei. There was no doubt about this. Therefore, Tian Fei's future path was to become stronger as he fled. In the end, whether or not Tian Fei could break out of the encirclement and survive would depend on his own ability. But now, he actually came here. What was this kid trying to do? Seek refuge with me? Then let him in. Let's see what this kid has to say. Li Zongjiu said. Then, he tidied up and went out. The Howling Moon Wolf King had already been abducted by Do Ling. Now, Do Ling spent almost every day in the casino. This brat was truly a complete coward. After a little coercion and enticement, he immediately betrayed Li Zongjiu and left with another woman. But fortunately, Dou Ling would come back to sleep at night. She could not possibly sleep in the casino all day long. As for whether Dou Ling was hurt outside, there was no need to worry. He only needed to worry about whether Dou Ling would hurt others outside. Moreover, Dou Ling had Du Lianyi by her side. Basically, there would be no problem. In the hall, Tian Fei knelt down on one knee in front of Li Zongjiu. "Didn't I let you live? What are you doing here?" Li Zongjiu looked at Tian Fei and said. "Tian Fei is here to seek refuge with you. I am willing to help you fight against the mystic Yuan sect," Tian Fei said. Ing Hu, who was standing at the side, opened his mouth wide. "Fuck me. What do you mean? Why do you want to fight against the mystic Yuan sect?" "Young master, when did we offend the mystic Yuan sect?" Ing Hu had been in the underworld for a long time. Naturally, he knew the strength of the mystic Yuan sect. Even among all the forces in the world, the mystic Yuan sect was one of the top powerhouses in the underworld. In the entire Xingyan dynasty, the mystic Yuan sect was not some local expert. This was a dynasty-level force. If you offended such an expert, they could easily hunt you down all over the world. This is the disciple of the mystic Yuan sect. I just chopped off one of their elders' hands and snatched one of their elixirs. Of course, they would not let me go. Li Zongjiu said very naturally. It was as if these things were normal for him. He said very calmly. "What? Young master, you chopped off one of their elders' hands? Whose hand did you chop off? I don't know his name, but he only has one arm. Don't you think it's funny?" When Ing Hu heard this, he immediately felt his legs go soft. In the mystic Yuan sect, there was a famous one-armed elder. One-armed Xiao Yuan. Primitive Emperor Realm Expert. How long have you been out? You chopped off the arm of an primitive Emperor Realm Expert, and it was the only one. It's Elder Xiao Yuan. Tian Fei said. Shadow Fox almost succumbed to his asthma and fainted on the spot, unable to breathe properly. Chapter 706. Since you want to seek refuge, you can stay here. Your task in the future is to watch over the people in the stable. Li Zongjiu recalled that there was another person in his courtyard. Since he was a Yuan monarch elite, he naturally had to hire an expert to watch over him. Although Lu Wenshan had been living quite comfortably in Li Zongjiu's residence recently, Li Zongjiu's residence was still a little strange. He could also use some elixir pills in exchange for a more comfortable life. Now, there was a bed in the small stable. In addition, Lu Wenshan's daily job was to brush the red mane horse clean and feed it until it was full. Tian Fei had not expected Li Zongjiu to agree so quickly. Was he not afraid that Tian Fei would do something else? He was too confident in Tian Fei's safety. Then, Ing Hu brought Tian Fei to the stable. When Tian Fei saw the person living in the stable, he felt suffocated. For some reason, he felt a sense of suffocation. It was obvious that the strength of the person in front of him was even greater than his own. Although Lu Wenshan was now a prisoner, he was still a powerhouse who was about to break through and become a grade 6 alchemist. His mind power was extremely powerful. Who is this? Lu Wenshan asked Ing Hu. In this entire courtyard, Ing Hu was the real housekeeper. Everything was handled by Ing Hu. Because there was no one else, Lu Wenshan tried his best to curry favor with Ing Hu. You two can get to know each other. You can stay with him in the future. There are no other rooms here. His task is to watch over you. Don't worry. Ing Hu waved his hand and said. Although Lu Wenshan did not know the person in front of him, he knew that the young man in front of him was a Yuan monarch elite. Such a young Yuan monarch elite was naturally talented and strong. However, how did such a genius end up living in a stable? I am Tian Fei. How should I address you, senior? Tian Fei cupped his hands and said. He could tell at a glance that Lu Wenshan was strong. He had not expected that the person living in Li Zongjiu's stable was also a peerless expert. Spirit Valley Sect, Lu Wenshan. Finally, there was an outsider. Lu Wenshan immediately said arrogantly. With his reputation as an elder of Spirit Valley Sect, many people would have heard of him. True enough. When Tian Fei heard Lu Wenshan's name, his face immediately turned pale. Their mystic Yuan sect might not know everything that had happened in Sacred Flame Royal City previously. At most, they had heard a little about it. However, they had naturally heard of Lu Wenshan's name before. So it's an elder of Spirit Valley Sect. Tian Fei bowed respectfully. Although the fighting strength of Spirit Valley Sect was definitely inferior to the Mystic Yuan sect, a sect like the Mystic Yuan sect would definitely not dare to offend an alchemy sect like Spirit Valley Sect. Once they were offended, the alchemy sect would go all out to help the Mystic Yuan sect's enemy. That would be a heavy blow to the Mystic Yuan sect. Even if the Mystic Yuan sect was not destroyed, it would be quite difficult for them. What sect are you from? Why are you here? Lu Wenshan asked. Speaking of this, Tian Fei's eyes were filled with vicissitudes of life. Although he was young, everything that he had experienced was still too tragic for him. Tian Fei immediately recounted his experience to Lu Wenshan. After all, Lu Wenshan was also an experienced person. After comforting Tian Fei, he also expressed his approval of Tian Fei's enlightenment. Only when one's strength is strong, that's true strength. Previously, he hoped to rely on the strength of this sect to save himself. In the end, he was quite miserable. However, Lu Wenshan relied on his own strength to survive here and had a good life. Most importantly, Lu Wenshan was still alive. Everything was to save himself. As long as he was alive, there was hope. Then work hard here. There will be a day when you succeed. Oh right, as an old man here, I have to remind you. In this courtyard, other than Li Zongjiu, you have to be extra careful of another young girl. This girl's strength is unfathomable. When she is irritable, she has unstoppable violence. Lu Wenshan said in a deep voice. Tian Fei nodded. Tian Fei also nodded in understanding. Even the calm and experienced Lu Wenshan could not help but show a trace of fear and lingering fear on his face. It was as if he had experienced an indescribable horror. Tian Fei, who had just joined, could not help but feel a little nervous. However, even in the stable of Li Zongjiu's family, the person who lived there was a peerless expert. This was really too shocking for Tian Fei. Shouldn't such an expert be provided with the best food, accommodation, and service? It was really hard to imagine that such an expert would be reduced to living in a stable. No, I have to remind Li Zongjiu. Young master, the Xianyuan sect is very likely to attack his family. Tian Fei was very familiar with the tricks of the Xianyuan sect. In fact, Tian Fei did not hate Li Zongjiu. After all, they were on the opposite side at that time. Moreover, although his origin pearl was broken, the other two had also repaired it. Instead, it was Li Zongjiu who made Tian Fei recognize the group of people around him. At the same time, it made Tian Fei determine his own path. Who else in the world could do this to such an extent? Naturally, there was no need to hate such an expert. What made Tian Fei most angry and hated the most was the people of the Xianyuan sect. Only by killing Gong Changhe could he vent the hatred in his heart. Lord Yinghu. I have something to report. Tian Fei found Yinghu, who was fishing. If you have something to say, just say it. What's there to report? Yinghu shook the fishing rod in his hand, and the fish that was about to take the bait was scared away. Yinghu hurriedly went forward to report this matter to Yinghu. Yinghu immediately put down the fishing rod and went to look for Li Zongjiu. The people of the Shenyuan sect are so shameless. After listening to this information, Li Zongjiu suddenly frowned. Although the Luoxia city was under the protection of the Thousand-Horse City, the Thousand-Horse City might not be able to withstand the Shenyuan sect with their strength. Therefore, if he wanted to solve this matter, he must do it as soon as possible. A group of people who are courting death. Li Zongjiu's eyes were filled with cold light. Since these people wanted to deal with the people of the Luoxia city, he naturally could not let them go back alive. Just when Li Zongjiu was about to set out to find these people and kill them. But he found that there was another visitor. And this time, the visitor could be said to have been waiting for Li Zongjiu. It was so hard to wait. You stinking brat, I've finally found you. The library elder rushed in and almost strangled Li Zongjiu to death. Chapter 707. The person who came was none other than the guardian elder of the library who had been waiting for Li Zongjiu in the Heavenly Dawn medicine manner. Now, the half-year deadline was just around the corner. If the scorpion poison in his body was not removed, it would definitely have a great impact. Therefore, during this period, the elder had been desperately searching for the medicinal herbs that Li Zongjiu needed. It was not easy to gather them, but he found that Li Zongjiu was in the secret realm. Now, he could not find Li Zongjiu no matter how hard he tried. He could only wait outside bitterly. Oh, it's you. It's been half a year already. Li Zongjiu frowned. Time really passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, the time was up. Look at how anxious this old man was. It's just a small scorpion. Look at your cowardly face. Li Zongjiu said disdainfully. Have you prepared the things I asked for? When the elder heard this, he wanted to slap him. What did he mean by a small scorpion? If it were not for this scorpion, he would not have to suffer the pain of his cultivation falling. Of course, it's all here. The medicinal pills on your prescription are all a mess. Speaking of these medicinal herbs, this old man could be said to be extremely annoyed. He had to run all over the Shengyan dynasty. God knows how many grandfathers and grandmothers he had to beg before he could gather these medicinal herbs. Now that he thought about it, the price he had to pay to get these medicinal herbs was quite high. These are all good things. What do you know? Li Zongjiu took the storage ring that the elder handed over. After checking it, he found that the medicinal herbs were indeed complete. In this way, he could start preparing to refine the longevity myriad origin pill. A pill that could increase his cultivation for many years and increase his cultivation base. Just the 6 grade 6 medicinal herbs in his hand were already very precious. To be able to finish them in half a year, this old man was quite capable. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to be so efficient. You've got the herbs. Now, tell me, how are you going to detoxify me? Until now, the old man still didn't know if Li Zongjiu was reliable or not, or if he could cure him. If Li Zongjiu couldn't do it, then he would definitely beat this guy to death without hesitation. Follow me. Li Zongjiu led the old man into the training room. The training room itself had been reinforced, so that if there was a breakthrough, some of the wantonly pervasive aura would be released and hurt the people around. It's finally here. I'm so excited. Brat, you have to be careful. Otherwise, I'll be sorry if I accidentally hurt you. The old man's emotions were clearly somewhat agitated. His cultivation had been sealed for nearly 10 years. Anyone would have been driven mad. Fortunately, this old man had waited for hope to arrive. Brat, the weapon in your hand looks pretty good. Where did you get it? The old man looked at the desolate heaven essence in Li Zongjiu's hand and could tell at a glance that it was extraordinary. He had already reached the Yuan Lord realm more than 10 years ago. Such strength naturally wasn't something that ordinary Yuan Lords could compare to. Li Zongjiu estimated that the old man's previous cultivation should have been at the 4th or even the 5th Yuan Lord realm. After all, it wasn't easy to survive the attack of the desolate sky scorpion. The fact that he was still alive and breathing was already proof of his strength. He had already possessed such a cultivation more than 10 years ago, but now he was trapped at the peak of the Yuan Lord realm. Naturally, he wouldn't feel good about it. What are you doing? Suddenly, he saw Li Zongjiu raise the glowing stick in his hand and smash it at the old man's head. Pine! The old man immediately flipped over and fell to the ground. You're really talkative. Li Zongjiu knocked the old man unconscious. Of course, this wasn't necessary. He just didn't want to listen to the old man's bullshit. Following which, Li Zongjiu helped the old man up. With a bang, a stream of yuan power was injected into the old man's body. A domineering force instantly surged out. The obsidian flame immediately burned in the old man's body. In the past, his strength had been insufficient. Even the flames had not been able to enter the old man's body and had been blocked by the old man's own strength. Although the old man's current Yuan monarch cultivation base was only at the peak of the Yuan monarch realm, the various reactions of his body were at the level of a Yuan monarch. It wouldn't be so easy for the external Yuan power to invade his body. After knocking the old man unconscious with the stick, it would have a certain effect. Of course, the reason why he was so confident was because the desolate heaven essence was in his hands. Using the desolate heaven essence to suppress the old man would naturally have a very good effect. Now, let's see how cunning a scorpion like you is. Li Zongjiu's yuan power wrapped around the black day's flame before it directly gushed into the elder's body and reached his yuan bead. The elder's yuan bead was also surrounded by this terrifying flame. Then, Li Zongjiu also immersed his mental energy into it. Boom! In the next second, Li Zongjiu's mental energy arrived at the Yuan Pearl. This was the old man's Yuan Pearl world. Li Zongjiu's mental energy could see a tall mountain. This was the old man's Yuan Pearl. At this moment, the terrifying power that existed on top of this mountain made Li Zongjiu raise his eyebrows. What a huge scorpion! From the top of the mountain, one could see an extremely huge black scorpion lying on top of it. Staring at such a terrifying power, Yi Zichen sighed. It was the power of this black scorpion that was suppressing the old man's Yuan Pearl. A large portion of the power was being restrained by this scorpion. Desolate Sky Scorpion, let me have a taste of your moves. Li Zongjiu stretched out his hand and the desolate heaven essence appeared in his hand. This was the benefit of refining a weapon. One could take it out and use it at any time and place. Using such power in one's hands. Li Zongjiu was also extremely powerful. The desolate heaven essence emitted a terrifying light. Boom! It transformed into a force of 10,000 feet and smashed towards the desolate sky scorpion. As long as the desolate sky scorpion was destroyed, the poison would be eliminated. The obsidian flame wrapped around the desolate heaven essence. It smashed towards the desolate sky scorpion. The great desolate sky scorpion was greedily absorbing the energy of the Yuan Force mountain below. Suddenly, it sensed someone charging towards it. Naturally, it was infuriated when it sensed such a terrifying aura. The desolate sky scorpion also raised its pincers. Boom! When the desolate heaven essence collided with the desolate sky scorpion, there was a terrifying explosion. The desolate sky scorpion's pincers were sliced apart. However, the desolate heaven essence was also blasted away. Not good. When the desolate heaven essence was blasted away, Li Zongjiu sensed that something was wrong. The desolate sky scorpion was also at the Origin Emperor realm, a rank 6 Yuan beast. The strength of such a Yuan beast was naturally not weak. It seized the opportunity to grab Li Zongjiu with its pincers. The powerful move was released and separated the distance of a few hundred meters, clamping Li Zongjiu between its pincers. Crack! Li Zongjiu immediately felt that his body was about to be crushed. However, the golden dragon Yuan spirit also took the initiative to appear. It allowed Li Zongjiu to release golden light from his body, blocking the attack and preventing Li Zongjiu from being crushed into two. How arrogant! Are you trying to crush me to death? Li Zongjiu's eyes were filled with coldness. He immediately raised his hand and slammed down. It shattered a small portion of the desolate sky scorpion's pincers. Break! Another punch landed right in the middle of the room. It contained Li Zongjiu's Yuan Qi and the power of the golden dragon Yuan spirit, shattering the desolate sky scorpion's pincers. Boom! The moment Li Zongjiu smashed the pincers, suddenly, the sound of wind breaking could be heard. It was the desolate sky scorpion's poisonous tail. Boom! Chapter 708. The poisonous stinger was extremely powerful. If Li Zongjiu was hit, his mental energy would be contaminated by the prehistoric sky scorpion's poison. However, when the poisonous stinger appeared in front of Li Zongjiu seemed to have nowhere to run. At this moment, the black dragon's soul was released from his body. A majestic roar resounded in the sky like thunder. Boom! A huge black dragon drilled out of Li Zongjiu's body and grabbed the scorpion's tail with its claws. With a roar, it shattered the scorpion's tail. Bang! The appearance of the black dragon's soul was truly shocking to Li Zongjiu. Because this fellow seemed to have appeared by itself. This made Li Zongjiu turn serious. This wasn't a good thing. He didn't expect this thing to have been hiding in his body all this time. Hibernating until now. However, the black dragon origin dragon appeared because Li Zongjiu was in danger. No, this black dragon soul seems to be in a state of automatic protection. Li Zongjiu looked at the black dragon origin spirit that had rushed out of his body. It was wildly beating up the prehistoric sky scorpion in front of it. The fierce battle made Li Zongjiu shudder with fear. This kid is really fierce when he fights. The black dragon origin spirit was indeed the king of this battle. With a flip, it tore the prehistoric sky scorpion into pieces. In just a short moment, the black dragon origin spirit had already stepped on the prehistoric sky scorpion. The arrogant attitude of an expert made the prehistoric sky scorpion tremble. The prehistoric sky scorpion struggled for a while before it was devoured by the black dragon origin spirit. Then, the black dragon origin spirit whistled and flew back into Li Zongjiu's body. Boom! Seeing the black dragon origin spirit disappear. Li Zongjiu also found that these things had been done. The black day's flame appeared once again and gradually removed the remaining poison on the yuan bead. However, before Li Zongjiu could make a move, he suddenly sensed a powerful energy that seemed to be directly erupting from the yuan bead. Not good. Li Zongjiu hurriedly withdrew his mental power from the old man's body. If this power were to spread out, it would directly shatter Li Zongjiu's mental power. So, Li Zongjiu's mind power returned to its original position. After opening his eyes, Li Zongjiu dashed out of the door without a word. Boom! A loud noise erupted from Li Zongjiu's house. Li Zongjiu's figure landed on the ground. That shocking shockwave was about to send Li Zongjiu flying. However, it was only a remnant shockwave after all. After a slight adjustment, Li Zongjiu unleashed his yuan power and blocked the shockwave in front of him. Otherwise, just this shock wave alone would be enough to destroy the entire courtyard. Boom! All the power was directed towards the sky by Li Zongjiu. In the stable, Tian Fei and Lu Wenshan suddenly felt a tyrannical shock wave in front of them. Because the distance wasn't very far, and the aura was gradually getting stronger. This was clearly the shock wave of an Origin Emperor expert. There's an Origin Emperor expert. Could it be that Li Zongjiu has broken through to the Origin Emperor level? Lu Wenshan's face was full of shock and astonishment. Seeing this scene, he was also guessing in his heart. Origin Emperor. Origin Emperor expert. Tian Fei's face was also full of shock. What kind of crouching tiger and hidden dragon was Li Zongjiu? Even in the mystic Yuan sect, the number of Origin Emperor experts was definitely not many. Every Origin Emperor expert was almost priceless and had a high status. In the mystic Yuan sect, if one's cultivation had broken through to the Origin Emperor realm, he would basically not have to worry for the rest of his life. As long as he did not betray the sect, he could do whatever he wanted. There was a great tolerance for Origin Emperor experts. Even in a sect, as long as there was an Origin Emperor expert alive, they could make a comeback. Even the other sects and forces would not go too far. If an Origin Emperor expert went crazy, the lethality and destructive power he could cause was extremely terrifying. Now, in this small manner, there was also an primitive Emperor powerhouse, which was really shocking. Yinghu also hurried to Li Zongjiu's courtyard. Seeing the scene in front of him, he was extremely shocked. How could there be an Origin Emperor expert? Could it be that the old man just now had such a powerful ability? Ha ha ha, I, Nangong Wuji, am back. An incomparably savage laughter suddenly resounded through the sky. When many people in the city heard this voice, they directly scolded him for being a lunatic, making a ruckus in broad daylight. What else could he be if he was not a lunatic? However, many people were stunned when they heard the name mentioned by the voice. Who did you say? Who's back? Nangong Wuji. He's really back. Yes, that's what that person said. Oh no, this is not good. This Nangong Wuji, oh no. Some people seem to know the whole story. When they heard the name, they were already very surprised. When they found out that the person who had returned was really Nangong Wuji, their expressions changed. This time, there would be a storm gathering in Sacred Flame Royal City. White Deer Manor. As the terrifying power in Nangong Wuji's body surged again. Nangong Wuji also felt a kind of power that he had not felt for a long time. Li, you helped me detoxify. This old man owes you a favor. Nangong Wuji's figure appeared in front of Li Zongjiu. Now that Nangong Wuji had recovered to the Origin Emperor realm, although his cultivation had not yet returned to its peak state, he was already quite strong. At least there was hope for him to continue on the path of becoming an Origin Emperor. Don't be so pretentious. You won't die. Li Zongjiu looked at the old man in front of him and said. Why did he feel that the old man was floating in the sky after breaking through his current realm? Pretentious? You don't know how powerful I am now. I don't need to be pretentious. Nangong Wuji said indifferently. Those who did not know him would really think that Nangong Wuji was very powerful. Li Zongjiu waved his hand casually. Alright. You are so powerful. Go and take a look at your library. Li Zongjiu said. This time, Nangong Wuji did not agree. You are trying to stir up trouble. I know that you have some tricks up your sleeve, but you have miscalculated if you want to fight with me now. Nangong Wuji's confidence was greatly boosted at this moment. In addition, Li Zongjiu always acted so arrogant, as if he did not put a peerless expert in his eyes. Even if Li Zongjiu saved him, he still wanted to teach Li Zongjiu a lesson. He wanted to let Li Zongjiu know what it meant to be low-key. Oh. Li Zongjiu looked at Nangong Wuji with a faint smile. Chapter 709. Today, in return, I will teach you a lesson. Don't worry, it's completely free of charge. I won't charge you anything. With that, Nangong Wuji placed one hand behind his back and stretched out his other hand. A terrifying yuan power gathered in the center of his palm. It seemed like a casual wave of his hand could attract all the yuan power within 100 miles. Buzz! Yuan power suddenly gathered in front of Nangong Wuji. Boom! The yuan power in front of Nangong Wuji surged out like a raging dragon. It rushed straight towards Li Zongjiu. Whoosh! Li Zongjiu stood still and did not dodge. However, Nangong Wuji did not hold back at all. He was determined to make Li Zongjiu suffer a little. "You're just using an old trick from hundreds of years ago." Li Zongjiu's words were full of contempt. However, Nangong Wuji thought that Li Zongjiu was just trying to win with his tongue. As long as he caught Li Zongjiu and gave him a good beating, he would become obedient. Boom! Li Zongjiu slashed out with an object in his hand and instantly dispersed the Yuan power in front of him. The Yuan power released by Nangong Wuji was forcibly dispersed at this moment. Crash! How dare you break my Yuan power? When Nangong Wuji looked at Li Zongjiu, he frowned. The strength that Li Zongjiu displayed at this moment had surprised Nangong Wuji. "Not only will I break your Yuan power, but I will also break your legs." Li Zongjiu swung the Desolate Heaven Essence in his hand and the power of the Desolate Heaven Essence immediately swept out. Boom! The power of the Desolate Heaven Essence was like the terrifying power that erupted from the vast mountain range. It rushed towards Nangong Wuji with a terrifying hurricane. Nangong Wuji, on the other hand, was a little confused in front of this power. Immediately, he could only circulate his elemental energy to defend himself. If he were to run away, it would be too humiliating for Nangong Wuji. Could it be that a dignified primitive emperor would run away from a little brat like you? Wouldn't my reputation be tarnished in the future if people knew about it? Therefore, even though Nangong Wuji was already panicking, he didn't choose to escape in the face of this move. Boom! Nangong Wuji's figure was instantly sent flying. Bang! Li Zongjiu's strike was too powerful. Nangong Wuji was sent flying by the force of the collision. Nangong Wuji instantly smashed through a wall in the manner and flew out, eating a mouthful of fence-sitters. Cough cough. The corner of Nangong Wuji's mouth was overflowing with blood after he forced himself to stand up. However, he quickly wiped it clean. This time, he was in extreme pain. He felt as if all the bones in his body were going to fall apart. Others probably wouldn't be able to experience this kind of incomparably satisfying feeling. Li Zongjiu put away the Desolate Heaven Essence. This time, this self-righteous and pretentious old man would probably be a little more obedient. Li Zongjiu's action was to let Nangong Wuji know that he couldn't act presumptuously in front of him just because he had broken through to the primitive emperor realm. This strike could be considered to be a lesson to the old man, a knock on his head. At the same time, Li Zongjiu wanted to determine the true power of the Desolate Heaven Essence. Nangong Wuji had just recovered and his elemental energy cultivation was only at the first-grade primitive emperor realm. However, with his strength, he could easily deal with a second-grade primitive emperor. However, after Li Zongjiu's strike, Nangong Wuji's situation was still very bad. There was nothing more to say. Li Zongjiu also had a rough idea of how much power the Desolate Heaven Essence could produce. "Brat, what kind of weapon is that in your hand?" Nangong Wuji grimaced as he came in front of Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu had already put away the Desolate Heaven Essence. "My weapon specializes in beating up the old and weak," Li Zongjiu said faintly. "Remember to fix my wall when you get back." The matter of the wall couldn't be forgotten so easily. Although Nangong Wuji was depressed in his heart, he was also slightly surprised. Could it be that the young people nowadays were so powerful that even the primitive emperor could be easily defeated? "It's just a wall. If this old man wants to, I can build a mansion in a few minutes," Nangong Wuji said. Nangong Wuji's elemental energy was of the earth attribute. Therefore, he should be quite knowledgeable when it came to building. At this moment, building a wall was naturally an extremely simple matter. However, Li Zongjiu took note of Nangong Wuji's words. "You said it. If that's the case, I'll leave that piece of land to you. You have to build it properly for me." Li Zongjiu pointed to an open space outside the shattered wall. The open space was next to a barren mountain. It looked extremely desolate, but it was spacious enough. This piece of land looks a little familiar. You really got a piece of land. Nangong Wuji wanted to slap himself. Who would have thought that Li Zongjiu would really have a piece of land? Before the house is built, don't even think about leaving. Also, don't blame me for not reminding you. With the state of your origin bead, before it completely recovers, if you still dare to act recklessly, then you can just wait for death. Li Zongjiu said. It was like a crippled patient who had been bedridden for many years. If he ran like crazy after recovering, it wouldn't be long before his legs, which had just recovered, would be broken. Moreover, his legs would be completely ruined. Nangong Wuji naturally knew how much credibility Li Zongjiu's words had. Therefore, Nangong Wuji wasn't too surprised after hearing Li Zongjiu's words. Building a house is not something that can be done with two hands. Besides, I'm a dignified primitive emperor expert. How can I help you find a construction team? I have the formula for a grade 6 elixir. If it's refined, it can at least restore your cultivation to its peak within a year. Deal. Nangong Wuji said immediately. Nangong Wuji no longer had any doubts about Li Zongjiu's ability. After all, he could easily remove the primitive sky scorpion's poison. This was enough to prove that Li Zongjiu's strength wasn't ordinary. In addition, with this strange weapon, Li Zongjiu could at least remain undefeated in the face of a grade 3 primitive emperor expert. It was naturally shocking that he had such terrifying talent and potential at such a young age. Without Li Zongjiu's elixir, Nangong Wuji would need at least 3 to 5 years to restore his strength to its peak. Furthermore, no one knew how many heavenly treasures would be consumed during this process. However, Li Zongjiu's elixir could greatly shorten the time needed for Nangong Wuji to restore his strength. This was already a miracle in itself. When such a miracle happened to Li Zongjiu, Nangong Wuji was not surprised at all. The two people hiding in the stable were watching from afar. After witnessing Li Zongjiu's strength, they were deeply shocked. No wonder young master could cut off Elder Xiaoyuan's arm. This is too strong. He recalled that he had wanted to defeat Li Zongjiu in the Jingyue villa. Tian Fei suddenly felt that he was too stupid. He wished he could slap his own mouth. It was already giving him face that he didn't kill him directly after offending such a high-level expert. At this moment, Tian Fei had completely let go of his worries and kept a low profile. Although his previous strength was not bad, there were too many masters and capable people in this world. Any one of them could easily appear and take his life. Nangong Wuji. Nangong Wuji, this name, Tian Fei looked at Lu Wenshan, who was beside him, and repeatedly muttered Nangong Wuji's name. Tian Fei was a little surprised. Why was Lu Wenshan so frightened by the situation in front of him? Elder Lu, what's wrong with you? Tian Fei couldn't help but ask. However, when he looked at Lu Wenshan, a clear fear gradually appeared in his eyes. It's him. He's back. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.